Take it away, Chris Pratt.
A crisped rat. All right.
That's the open, by the way, right there. We're already into the episode.
Yeah.
Okay? That is the open.
Crisp rat, baby. Crisp rat.
It's me, Chris Brad. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Friends Per Second podcast, a fortnightly, bi-weekly, twice a month show, however you want to say it, where four friends gather around to talk about all the biggest things that are happening in the world of video games. And this week I am hosting. My name is Lucy James, and we'll go around the horn. I love it that we all kind of like big each other up when we are introducing each other. Who should I go to? I'm going to go to Jake first. To my this way. Jake that doesn't work if you're listening to the audio version, I'm so sorry. Jake Baldino, you might know him from Game Ranks or his own channel, The Man Who Loves DeLorean. How did you celebrate the Metal Gear anniversary this week, Jake?
I just kind of stewed in anguish, because that's what you're supposed to do as a Metal Gear Solid fan.
Play some pachinko.
Yeah,
that's what
I just looked at
I
looked up and
2022.
reminisced at their absence of availability on online stores, which we will get to.
I was gonna say, did you put on like the chicken hat from Metal Gear Solid 5 and just look sadly at your? I don't know. I'm running out of Metal Gears.
He just walked around in his house in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And his missus is like, stop doing that, okay? I've told you so many times that's not healthy. And you're like, what, you can see me? What? I'm just a cardboard box.
Snake Eater is playing at 3,000 decibels, just shaking his house.
There's a video online of me singing the entire song.
It's an amazing song.
Yeah, so
I'm afraid we're gonna need to put that in.
Is it the greatest song ever added to a video game?
It's the best Bond song ever made.
Hang on, no. I would like to say the Bond song that they made for 007 Nightfire. Absolutely.
Oh, dude!
slaps.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That is Jake Baldino. Jake, could you introduce Ralph?
I would love to introduce Ralph. Ralph is also known as SkillUp, who is graciously lending us his YouTube channel to host the video version of this podcast, and we are eternally grateful for that. He's a top-tier game reviewer who I'd say
that's a lie.
Went.
That's a lie.
What would you say? You went a little bit outside of your comfort zone with your newest review, Powerwash Simulator, which
a little bit. Yep.
I like.
A bit worried that one's going to get demonetized.
For good reason, I think absolutely worth it. Check that out.
The most sultry intro to a review I think I've ever seen.
I was waiting for
Convinced
Careless
me.
Whisper to kick in, but you would have got even more demonetized. But would have been worth
That's true. That's absolutely true.
So
people are like, "Hey man, I'm a patron. Can I please get some ASMR, weird, sexy times talk?" And I'm like, I don't think that's going to become part of my content offering. But thank you for your inquiry. I'll keep that one in my back pocket.
But like as a person who talks about games and thinks about games and how to talk about them, seeing you do that was cool. I was like, that takes a little something. That's not one you can do on autopilot. So props to you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I really dug deep on the sleeves for that one. You know, it's like, that was great. So if you haven't, you know what we're talking about. I reviewed Powerwash Simulator, and it spoke to me on a certain level. So I communicated that in my video. So it's the intro block. If you only have to watch the first 30 seconds, you get the gist of the whole video. Okay, that's the point. Yep. But we'll definitely come back to Powerwash Simulator because it's actually pretty top tier amazing.
It really is.
And Gerard, my man, my dude, he's obviously, you know him as the completionist. He completes all the video games where he treads where game journalists not dare tread, getting platinum trophies for every game that he plays. That sounds like utter madness. I would never do it. You couldn't pay me $5 million a year to do that. But he does it every week, and he also hosts on G4. And he's just an awesome, rad dude. And how you been, man?
I'm good. Thank you for the introduction, Ralph. That's actually why I started the show, because I felt like game journalists didn't finish their games. That was back when I was young.
Man, there we go. Where you were young. Okay, right.
So this is when very young, like when I was like 21, 22, I was like, game journalists don't finish games. And then I kind of like became one. And I was like, oh, I made the mistake of going to the finish line every time. This was it's exhausting.
So yours not the finish line. Yours is like the finish line, and then it's like you're going around and running a second lap, and then you're like hosing down the car afterwards. Like that's you know. So that's another thing. But yeah,
no, hold on. We have to stop something real quick. We have to introduce our host as well, Lucy James.
That's right.
Incredible lady from
go on
from GameSpot, from Giant Bomb from her Twitch streams, which are always funny. If you're a West Coast viewer like I am, you can chime in late times and see her play games. It's a great time. Lucy the Amazing. Thank you for hosting today, Lucy.
Thank you. No, I'm excited because, like we said, we have sort of Friends Per Second, the lost tapes, where we've all taken a chance, and I think this is only the second time I've ever really hosted. So I'm excited to do it, and we've got a lot of fun things to talk about. Well, I say fun things as in it'll be a fun conversation that we can really get our teeth into. Yeah. The subject matter at hand is not so fun.
Grumpy.
I know. I'm sorry. We'll kick off with the. What do you want to call this? The thing that kind of we got mad about, because I mean we have a Discord where we kind of drop in ideas for stories and just bants throughout the week. This is a real peek behind the curtain. We do have a channel that's just called Bants, and
which is a word for British people about talking, I think.
But talking with like having a good time.
You're having a bant.
Didn't want to question it.
Yeah.
Didn't want to question it.
No,
right.
the worst bit is, and we're on a tangent already, is that in the UK you can say bants or you can do things, call it like the Archbishop of Banterbury. Banter claws. I'm gonna get a cheeky Nando's and I'll get
Cheeky
some
Nando's.
Cheeky
I was like, that's the one. Why is it only ever cheeky? It can never be anything else. Nando's owns that word. It should trademark the word cheeky.
It should incorporate into its marketing.
It should.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, it's like in Australia, by the way, because we call McDonald's Macca's over here.
Yes.
And some McDonald's
insane.
actually have on the sign, they don't have the word McDonald's, they have the word Macca's.
How is it spelled? Like Macca's? Like Macca's?
Correct.
Wow.
Macca's. That's the one. Yep.
Whoa.
So they've really owned it, and I feel like Nando's needs to do the same. It needs to rebrand, and all their stores just have the word cheeky in the top left-hand corner, and then the word Nando's.
I'm going back to the UK next month, and I am genuinely so excited for cheeky Nando's.
Wait, do you have Nando's in the States? Question mark.
No.
We do, but it's not nearly as good as it is in the UK.
It's chicken,
Nothing
right?
is. It's not cheeky. Yes,
it's chicken.
Peri.
It's
chicken.
just Nando's.
It's like also
You can buy the sauce over here.
You can.
KFC in Australia is famous for its chips, fries. I don't know what you guys call them.
Oh,
but like
Chips.
in Australia, the KFC fries are god tier, legendary, incredible. Oh my god, they just douse them in chicken salt and they're just amazing. And sometimes you go to KFC and you order like a meal and they don't put chicken salt on the chips and you're like, I'm going back to KFC. I want my fucking chicken. Like it's that level of commitment to the chips, right?
Wow.
But then you go to other countries and they're just like normal fries. There's just nothing special.
Shit.
You're like, you guys are really, it just doesn't make sense. They're missing out like that.
I think the gravy in KFC in the UK is better than it is here. It's like thick. And I'm from the north. I'm from the northeast of England, so I know a good gravy
you
when
guys
I
eat a
taste
bunch of
one and
soup
when I
and
see
stuff,
one.
right? Yeah.
It's basically like a soup. No, my
Stews.
I promise we'll talk about video games in a second, but my family, when I was a kid, they used to make, you call them popovers in America, or a Yorkshire pudding, which is basically like a pancake batter, but it rises.
Yeah.
And we used to make it the size of a dinner plate, and you used to put your dinner in it, and then you'd lather it in gravy. And it was like, I have not known just a meal like that since I moved to America, except for that time we went to Coco Ichiban, and it was a great time.
Oh,
that was a great time.
That was a great time. We introduced Jake to Coco Ichiban, Ralph, after we put you on your flight. I'm sorry.
You missed some good
that
curry.
place that you guys went. Yeah, right. Okay. Was that good, was it?
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh, shit. Okay. Jealous, man. Wow, way to leave me out on that one. Thanks very much.
Next time.
I had crappy plain food. What did I eat? Like pureed corn or some shit. Well, you guys are living the dream. Thanks.
No.
Thanks very much.
No.
Appreciate you.
Well, we've gone off on the food tangent, and now time for some food for thought.
Okay, all right.
Shit. That's
I'm
why
sorry.
she's
I'm
hosted.
sorry.
That's
I'm
it right
sorry.
there.
So
She did it.
bringing us back around to the Discord, we saw this on Twitter. It was this whole thing about Ubisoft saying, or someone had noticed, wasn't it? Like that Assassin's Creed Liberation, which was the Vita spin-off with Aveline that came out around the time of Black Flag, would be delisted and you couldn't download it past a certain date later this year. And Ralph, I'm going to throw to you for kind of more in depth, because there is way more to this conversation. But that was the
lot.
inciting incident.
Well, actually, it started a little bit before then because about a week before then, Ubisoft's like, hey, we're having a celebration. And to celebrate, we're going to take away your games that you bought, or at least the DLC, right? And what they did was they announced that a bunch of DLC, they're taking down a whole bunch of online features, like multiplayer-related stuff of games like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 3 and Ghost Recon Future Soldier. But in doing so, they also would remove DLC that you had purchased for those games, even if it was single-player DLC. Okay, so stuff like items that you have purchased, like character packs, missions, or maps, all that sort of stuff. You would lose access to that because the way that DLC was integrated required a kind of online authentication. So instead of Ubisoft kind of patching it to like make it available to everyone, they're just like, well, we know you bought it, but now it's gone. Bad luck. And everyone was like, well, that sucks. But anyway, it kind of just was a small story. But then what happened the following week was that on Steam, 2 games, Silent Hunter 5 and Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, got these warnings saying, hey, listen, first of all, they were delisted, so you couldn't purchase them. Then there was a warning saying that from September onwards, these games would no longer be accessible. Okay, that was the word. And so that wording has not appeared on any other Ubisoft title. It was specific to that. And so at that point, everyone's like, well, obviously that means that we are not going to be able to access these games. There was a warning saying that these games would be delisted, and they were. And then there was a warning to say they would not be accessible. So at that point, everyone's like, well, hang on. This is a single-player game that I purchased years ago or whenever. And in fact, some people purchased it as recently as the Steam sale.
Oh, yeah, because it was like 50% off or something.
It was like 75% off, right? You could have bought it the week before, and then Ubisoft were now saying that come September, it would no longer be available on Steam. So everyone erupted, and everyone's like, this is bullshit. And after that, Ubisoft issued a clarification to say, oh, actually, you still will be able to access it. And it's like, well, okay.
Fine.
Why have you said that it would be inaccessible then? And in fact, why are you delisting it at all? If it's still going to be accessible on Steam, why are you delisting it, right? So it just sounds like a lot of bullshit. It doesn't sound like that was a clarification at all. It sounds like a backtrack, and they were panicking because everyone was like, hey, guess it's time to pirate Ubisoft games because now they're just gonna straight up, take them out of our libraries after we bought them. And I think it's a fair point, and it's a funny point at this point as well, because Skull and Bones is doing their promo right now, and the motto for that game is "Long live piracy."
Is dope,
it couldn't be any more. That's right. So yeah, that is the background to how all of this unfolded.
It led to like a freak out sesh because it started to like all kind of pop up like all these names of all these other games, and it was like, oh wait, other Assassin's Creed games might be affected. Like when it turned out to be more of like a DLC offering and like all these contents added that you're not going to be able to access.
Yeah,
that was kind of like, oh shit. Like for stuff like I'm looking at the list, like Splinter Cell Blacklist, deluxe editions and like DLCs to it, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, like that's the Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is super underrated and is awesome.
I love Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yes.
One of my favorites.
Finally,
I got the platinum, and I never do that.
Everyone slept on it. It has seriously one of the best DLCs in gaming.
Holy shit!
Jack the
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper DLC is phenomenal.
So
yes,
phenomenal.
Game ranks.
Is it being delisted? Is that one of them?
So that's what
delisted?
it seemed like is popping up. Yeah, which is weird because it's ownership stuff. So it's look, I don't know how games are made and hosted and listed and maintained, but when it comes to like customer stuff and ownership stuff, like there has to be a better way to figure this stuff out. I understand licensing makes things so complicated. Like that's part of the reason why right now you can't buy versions of Metal Gear Solid like HD, like Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, stuff like that, because of all these licensing deals that they had for like military footage and shit for all the little cutscenes and stuff in the game.
That's right.
So like,
yeah, all that shit.
That stuff has to be like renegotiated, and like people have such a hard time with like, remakes and re-releases and stuff. But the reality is that we're seeing a lot of those because of licensing issues and because of little things. And there has to be something, almost like a non-fungible. I'm sorry.
Oh, you better not.
No, but there has
You
to be
better
some
not.
better way to figure out
No.
how this works so that this doesn't happen, like what we're talking about right now.
Do you want to know the funniest fucking thing about you mentioning like non-fungible tokens and we're talking about piracy? Is that LimeWire this week came back
God.
and LimeWire are peddling NFTs.
They're an NFT market now. It was the most it was almost a parody of that commercial. Like the way it spun at the end, I was like, oh, is this hard drive mag? Is this the hard times? Like, please, it has to be. Let it be a joke. But yeah, that's very sad.
I mean, let's kind of talk about the other things around this topic before we dig into our thoughts and feelings about it. So obviously, Ralph will come to you in a second to talk about Destiny. They kind of gate off huge amounts of content and then just get rid of it, I guess, or make it inaccessible after all. I don't play Destiny, that's why I'm going to throw it to you. We've got Nintendo announcing that it's winding down the 3DS and the Wii U shops. So what happens if you have digital-only games? Can't be purchased any other way. And then there's games like, Lawbreakers, RIP, where you can't even buy those games anymore because they not only were they online only, but when they shut down, they also delisted them. So I guess let's start. Gerard, I know you're a huge. Not only are you the completionist, but you are a collector. You are something of a collector yourself. Where do you stand on, big publishers kind of just revoking access like this?
It's heartbreaking. It really is. It sets a precedent because here's the thing. All it takes is one. It takes one publisher, one developer to get away with it. And then everyone else goes, well, they did it, so we can do it. And that's kind of, maybe that's just a jaded way to think, but that's kind of how I felt about the early monetization process of DLC stuff, right? Obviously we all remember Street Fighter Cross Tekken, how Capcom put all their DLC on their disc, and then people were like, why is it all here? It's all done. This is bullshit. But it kind of just takes one to kind of get away with it, and then the industry kind of changes. And you can kind of see that with NFTs being evidence with that. So to me, it's a shame that the industry at large is just forcing the consumers to stop. Now, you could argue, oh, well, you can go buy the game physically. It's like, right, but the DLC is not with the physical game. You could still pull the same old BS if I buy the game physically, and then there's an update that erases content or makes that content invalidated. Or what if I don't have internet out the box? Well, it sounds crazy, but there are genuine people who don't have good internet in the country, in the world, that struggle to get that support. So I think it's messed up. I wish there was kind of, if you are going to do this, I feel like there should be a mandate of there will be a Game of the Year edition to come out that will have everything incorporated, because there's even some companies that do Game of the Year editions that don't have the physical aspect of those games on there. It's like you got 3 of the 5 games and then 2 download codes that you have to redeem before a certain date, otherwise it expires.
Isn't that a thing with this is obviously a new game, hasn't come out yet, but wasn't that a thing with God of War Ragnarok where the collector's editions just come with codes?
Yeah, the highest tier one comes with just the code, which is like a thing that
they come with the carrying case for the disc.
Yeah, like what is that?
So that's actually not. I remember when Mass Effect Andromeda's collector's edition didn't even come with the game at all.
RC card, yeah.
It just came with the fucking card, not even the game. So I mean, like that's another level.
It's frustrating to say the least. I think it's not fair to consumers, and it definitely sets a precedence that the thing that you own digitally is not actually yours forever. It will go away at some point, or it has the ability to change, which I think is messed up.
Yeah, and I think there's a danger of things being kind of conflated where, you ever search for a game on Steam and you find the wrong thing, or you scroll too far and then you're just scrolling through the endless little nickel and dime DLC elements for that game listed as individual items. So if that stuff disappeared after a long time, for me, who cares? I still think if you bought it, you are entitled to still have access to even the smallest things like that. But I feel like they could very easily be like, oh, we get rid of that stuff, but then you could also lose access to something like a committed character that you bought, that you've put a bunch of time into. Like that's where that line is like super blurry,
Yeah. It's so strange. And like I saw the Ubisoft email from last week, which was, or the blog post, whatever it was, and it was, we're turning off, and I remember glazing through it and I was like, we're turning off multiplayer support for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed whatever, when Assassin's Creed used to have multiplayer, which I will go out and say was pretty good. I really enjoyed Assassin's Creed multiplayer.
It was fun.
And then, so I can understand the reasoning behind not wanting to pay to keep servers online for games. Like I can see the rationale behind that. Like if there's no one playing, then why keep those servers turned on? But revoking access to a game completely that I have bought is like, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's like, why did I even bother? Like I streamed Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 recently, and I already had Metal Gear Solid 1, luckily, but for 2, I did have to buy the old Xbox 360 copy from Amazon to ensure that I could even have it, because I can't access it anywhere here. And like, God knows what I'm going to do when I have to get to Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah.
Emulation. Well, actually,
Anyway.
emulation on 4 is like not great, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think it really definitely, it definitely throws open that discussion about the nature of piracy and whatever else, which I know is a very like awkward topic for discussion in like games media circles and whatever, because it's like, well, it's the thin end of the wedge stuff, and it's like, well, you don't want to look like you're condoning piracy. But it's like, I think we need to really examine the nature of that word, because the reality is that more and more publishers are going to create these online only experiences, video games that are that exist entirely in online ecosystems. Any work that the modding community, the emulation community, the pirating community can do to preserve those games, to make them playable in perpetuity, that is important work. So I'm definitely not a fan of people stealing games from that very strict sense of piracy. There's lots of economic factors to unpack in that as well, in terms of regional pricing, stuff we won't even talk about now. But in a broad sense, if you can afford to pay for a game, right? And then I think you should pay for it. And that's always been my philosophy. But I've definitely come to appreciate the work of the emulation and piracy community more and more, because I think preserving video games and preserving our long-term access to them and also guaranteeing our ownership, I think that is very important work, you know? And I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to that scene, because I think that this is... Our industry is uniquely vulnerable to this.
Yes.
Well,
in the
it's
sense
not.
that
I was going to argue, with exactly kind of think about what's happening with the Internet Archive at the moment. So the Internet Archive, if you're listening or watching and not aware, it is exactly what it is. It's a kind of free for all, where people just upload things they want preserved from the internet. It could be anything. Like there are Giant Bomb videos and podcasts up there. There are books that are no longer being published. And
can you upload racism?
There is a whole, I mean, probably, yeah. Like the last, I mean, like, no. So the last time I was on, I was doing an episode of the Very Online Show on Giant Bomb, and I was talking about, you know, like, nothing ever is truly deleted from the internet, and talking about internet preservation. And I was just scrolling on the Internet Archive, and it was like, here's a huge section that's all just hentai that people want to preserve forever. And
that'll be the biggest. That'll be like 65% of the archive is hentai for sure.
I was just scrolling, and I was like, oh my God, because Jess O'Brien, the wonderful Voidburger, edits it. And I was like, oh my God, I accidentally rolled past a dick. Jess, I'm so sorry. And so like, but anyway, the Internet Archive is undergoing a lot of legal action right now, because a bunch of publishers, I believe specifically like HarperCollins, I think.
Yeah, book publishers are really up in that.
Taking them to task for putting up these versions of books so that people can enjoy them in perpetuity, because the book publishers no longer have made them available anymore. And so it's kind of, it's not exactly the same, but it is a parallel that's happening kind of all over the internet. And especially when you think of, and I hate to say it, like Web3, a decentralized internet, the idea of like ownership and who owns what on the internet is such a rich tapestry full of intricacies that it's something that, I don't know, as consumers we should definitely be more aware of.
It's something, for me it's like a historical, and it's like a preservation thing, like even just for the work people put in, like for games that say like Ralph mentioned, games that exist more just online, more you know, games that eventually will disappear because they were a service, right? But like I still think, like, let's say the people who built the Division, the open world of the Division, I thought they crafted like the most incredible New York City. And I would love for people to be able to just boot up and wander that New York City 10 years from now, 15 years from now, long after the game completely dies off in every single digital way. Like stuff like that, I think like needs to be preserved at the very least.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely, part of it I imagine is like regulation, for example. Okay, so there's, different nations have laws in relation to their libraries, where, Library of Congress or what have you, where you need to submit like 4 copies of every book published in the United States, and that's a thing. And it's like, cool, that's great. That preserves that book forever. And there's no equivalent for that in the world of video games. Similarly, there's nothing that mandates that a developer should make their game available offline by some means, because I don't know that there necessarily should be that kind of mandate, because that is extra work and it might limit developers, or it might be an inconvenient impost that's just not, I don't know, like, would I want that? Sure, yeah. Great. I think that would be fantastic. But we live in the real world, and maybe the way this game is being built, and I've definitely heard this from some developers, that if you try and create an offline version of that,
it doesn't work.
It's a lot of extra stuff. Yeah. And I'm also sensitive to that, right? I hear that. But the way that things are going right now, I don't think that we're on the right trajectory at all. And so I do think we should open up that conversation about, well, what are we preserving and how are we making it available offline? Because the Division will eventually at some point be completely inaccessible, because Ubisoft will take the servers offline. There's no offline game equivalent. That's it, right? And this is something we live with right now in the world of Destiny, which, is a whole thing. But for anyone unfamiliar with that, Destiny has a concept called content vaulting, where after roughly 3 years of content being released, like an expansion that you purchased, Bungie will essentially decommission it and it becomes completely inaccessible. You cannot replay it. The PvP maps and the campaign that you played through and the whatever, all of that is just taken out of the main game. And so you're kind of on a 3-year rotation with Destiny's content. And what I've said there isn't 1,000% accurate, but it's the broad strokes, right? Mm-hmm. And it fucking sucks. Like, did Bungie say that they do it because it gives them agility and it allows them to focus on creating new content and keeping what's in the game up to date. It also reduces the install size of the overall game. All things that I am sensitive to, and I understand, and I believe Bungie when they say this. I don't think they're feeding us just a line. Like, I do believe that is why they're doing it. But at the same time, I don't believe it's acceptable that Destiny's history is lost in that way. Mm-hmm. Because, Forsaken, for example, an absolutely extraordinary campaign that really resurrected that game, and it's unplayable. Nobody can experience it. New players that want to join the Destiny universe cannot experience it. And that is not good enough in my book. And I don't think that, and you talk about like, it only takes one publisher. Destiny right now is that one publisher. And I guarantee you other publishers will continue to follow their lead on this, because I just think it's kind of too attractive not to. Yeah. So, yeah.
I do want to chime in real quick though, Ralph, because you said earlier about what happens when content goes away. There are passionate communities out there that are trying their best to preserve games that are going away, and there's one community I'd love to highlight as we like talk about the ending on a higher note for this, because it's obviously a little bit depressing. When I was in high school, I was obsessed with a game called City of Heroes. I was not a big World of Warcraft guy. I did not like fantasy setting stuff, but I did love comic books in high school. And so there is like, the alternative to World of Warcraft was City of Heroes for comic fans. And it was pretty expensive to maintain the expansions and the online services. And eventually that team would go on to make another free MMORPG that was basically a different version of City of Heroes. And then both those went free to play, and then both those got shut down and disappeared. The community, though, however, loves this game and is so passionate about this game. You can play City of Heroes on a fan-made server called Homecoming, and it's the same game again with modern-day improvements. You can play it in 4K. It comes with all the DLC packs. Like, they've made modernization of the changes for customizing characters. They've added assets. Like, not only do they preserve what people grew up playing with this game, but they now improved it so that people who are like, I wonder if City of Heroes is still around or whatever happened to that, they can go and experience this renaissance of a game that they they used to love. And I love that. That to me is saying, hey, hey company, you know, we get it. You moved on, but like we wanted to keep playing this thing.
It's almost like we need more of that, like, because it's like there's the early days of that where it's like Doom, all the Doom creations, early days of Quake, even just like basic Halo, like Blood Gulch, like that will always exist as data for anyone to access anywhere. But City of Heroes is like a more ambitious example, and I feel like we need to keep seeing that. But it really comes down to, and I always say this in my Friday show, like I'm a broken record, but like when people love a game enough and they have some skill or some technical know-how and they have the passion, like the sky is the limit, and that's so cool.
Yeah, that's true. Well, sky's the limit. Yes. Also,
unless you're doing like a Nintendo game.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, and then until Nintendo's lawyers find you, and then at that point you're going to find like, and I think that's the other thing as well. Like the legal frameworks for this, I think really do need to be updated because, I mean, I do think there should be some kind of guidance around because obviously there's also the IP challenge where these things are created and then rights holders like sort of hoard them like stuffed goblins, like dragons on big mounds of dead IP and dead unplayable games, and they kind of snap at anyone that dares try and make them playable. And it's like, well, that fucking sucks. Like that shouldn't be the way of it. So there needs to be some way to address that. I saw an interesting thread that's like topped all the Reddit recently about like, okay, if you don't want to update your game, you don't want to make it playable, then it has to be called abandonware. And if it hits that status, then at that point it's in the public domain and off we go. And it becomes everyone can do whatever they like with it. Will Nintendo be up for that? Hell no, they won't. They will spend billions of dollars fighting that. But I reckon that fight should be had, and I think Nintendo should lose because ultimately, like, this is an art form, and if you wanted, if like Paramount wanted to squirrel away The Godfather and make it unwatchable by any means, then everyone would fight that. And I think it's the same with video games, and we need to build that framework now to protect the future.
And The Godfather, the game, is actually a pain in the ass to play. So while we're at it, so
that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? That's also, it. So,
God damn it! Do you know how much of a well-oiled machine we are? Is that I was gonna throw to Gerard to ask, what can we do to help, like solve this problem? And you're just like, I got this. And then you all kind of answered. As one final kind of bookend to this conversation as well. There are some amazing orgs like the Video Game History Foundation who like their mission to kind of not only preserve gaming and make it more accessible for more people, but to kind of teach the history of gaming. And so more orgs like that need not only shout outs, but your support if you can do it. Because it's a very important thing for...
Is that the Embracer one? Is that the Embracer Museum or is that something else?
That's something else. No.
Okay, right.
Video Game History Foundation is a charity, registered charity.
Okay.
I think they recently... Am I making it up that they recently had a break-in? Some recent...
Yeah, they had a setback at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Very recently.
But their work
I can't remember.
is really good.
Yeah. I can't remember.
I do a ton of fundraising for those guys. I should check in with Frank and Kelsey and see how they're doing because that's not a good time.
I don't know if it was them. It was someone that I follow as well.
It was a video game store.
You're talking about So Kelsey Irwin, who owns a video game store, had a break-in, but it had nothing to do with the organization. Luckily,
famous video game store.
Yeah,
Gorilla.
Yes.
So, video game preservation, very, very important. So, we've talked a little bit about kind of like old games, like talk about upcoming. So, there's been a lot of capital D discourse again about The Last of Us. It's back in the news. Last of Us, now called The Last of Us Part 1, the remake of the 2013 Naughty Dog post-apocalyptic drama action adventure game is going to be priced $70. It's gone gold, and they revealed it's going to be $70, and a lot of people are not happy about that. Naughty Dog's developers have described it. One of the devs described it as one of the most ambitious projects they've ever worked on, with the quote that's been bandied around everywhere being, "It's not a cash grab." So it's not only is it going to be nice as like a 2022 game, but they are kind of going back in and retconning, fixing things to do with the gameplay, because I tried to play The Last of Us part 1. The Last of Us just before part 2 came out, and I was like, oh, That gameplay is not aged well.
A lot of
Really?
lot of pallets and ladders.
Dude,
That's the only thing that
no,
still
no.
bothers me.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this was also before, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Naughty Dog did not know how to make shooting feel good until Uncharted 4 Lost Legacy.
Sure.
I stand
sure.
by it. And
Uncharted 1, 2, yeah, they were really bad.
yeah,
I agree.
they
Agreed.
did not feel good. And I think Last of Us definitely had some of that kind of floatiness to it that I didn't particularly think aged very well. But anyway, so we've got this remake coming up. Not long to wait now. It's only September.
Yeah.
And people are being angry. So I guess I'll ask the $1 million question, or should I say the $70 question? Is it too much for a remake? I'm going to open the floor.
Ooh. Last of Us discourse. Let's go.
I'll go first. I'll break the ice.
Yeah.
I'll break the ice. I think $70 is too much if you've already purchased The Last of Us and The Last of Us or PS4. I think that if you are someone who's never experienced The Last of Us and this is you playing it for the first time, $60-$70 is fine. But if you are someone who's been loyal to the franchise, who has purchased it separately, who bought it on PlayStation Plus when it was free in those months, I think companies should be a little bit more loyal to their install base for the people who can support it and then go tell their friends to play it. And especially because people still don't have PlayStation 5s. So yeah. I believe that I think $70 is too much if you are someone who has already played this game. I think regardless of what's being redone about it, you're asking a huge price point for already a highly regarded but also controversial IP that is up and down all over the place for the last several years in terms of like capital D discourse. I personally think $70 is too much.
Yeah, I very much think that, like, at least from what they've said, it sounds like they're putting a good amount, like a good amount of work into it. And I always think that like people's work should be valued and paid for. But it's also work on a game that I very strongly felt like I don't think we needed this. So totally. It's like it seems like they're doing a good amount of work on it, maybe more work than the average remaster, but it's also on a game that isn't that old.
Yeah. And also has already been updated once before, don't forget, because they had the PS4 version.
Yeah, it ran pretty well.
And that was like, it runs beautifully, 60 FPS. They touched up some textures or whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, I think personally, Naughty Dog aren't liars, like they don't overhype stuff. And so when they say that like this is a really massively ambitious project and, it's totally worth it, it's not a cash grab, I am inclined to believe them. Especially given the fact that, I don't love The Last of Us gameplay, but a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, I can't get enough of this. It's the most realistic feeling, sort of stealth plus CQC kind of experience that I can experience. The grounded difficulty, I think it's called. Is it grounded?
Yeah.
That
Grounded.
People love that. And they're like, no, you have to play it on this difficulty. This is what makes it. So there's a lot of people that really connect with that style of gameplay, and they say The Last of Us 2 was phenomenal in that regard. Again, I don't have that connection to that style of play, didn't do anything for me, but people who really love that sing its high praises. And so therefore, the promise of the remake is essentially to bring that gameplay into The Last of Us Part 1, right? With that incredible story and characters, and also make it look incredible, and all the work that they've done on facial animations and like actual faces, they've changed them. So there's a lot there. This is not just, hey, we've made it a higher frame rate and resolution and called it a day. Like there's genuine work that's there. But yeah, I don't know. Like it would have been great if there was some kind of upgrade path, because I've bought that game now twice, and to buy it a third time, I don't know. It would have been great if I could pay, $30 to go from the PS4 version to the upgrade version. That'd be nice.
Right.
But that is not obviously Sony's play on this. But also I do think comparatively about why we ask these questions about this medium versus others. So for example, RoboCop 4K. I just bought that for, I don't know, it was like $40 or $50. That's the best $50 I ever spent, because now I get to watch RoboCop in 4K and it looks incredible, right?
It does.
And so I don't bat an eyelid at that. I think with films, we're like, yeah, sure, I'll pay the same price for the new whatever with the new features, or the director's cut, whatever.
Yeah.
But with video games, we really agonize over this question. We're like, oh, is it worth that? I don't know, you know? We have different metrics for how we evaluate video game stuff versus pretty much any other medium.
I feel like there's like, as much as I don't want to pay up for this, I think they have a good pitch that they should have shown right away. And that's essentially Joel moving like how Ellie moves in The Last of Us Part 2. Mm-hmm. Where, like, do you follow any of those people on Twitter, like Munch or Sunhee Legend?
Sunhee Legend.
They just smoke the entire game. They just like Ellie just 360 no scoping dudes. Like, I want to see, like, they should just show the gameplay where it's Joel in the first game just doing crazy shit like that. That's a pretty good selling point, at least.
Dude, I almost had to mute Sunny Legend when Elden Ring came out because there were bosses that I was having trouble with, and he was just like, nah.
He was just like, fuck you, man. But like, that's the other thing though. This game has gone gold. It's out in September, which is not far from now. Yeah. I don't think we've actually seen gameplay, have we? I know we've seen trailers that have
there was the cutscene
stuff and like little clips of gameplay, but we haven't seen like a proper gameplay trailer with lots of gameplay. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we saw was end of Summer Game Fest live. I think that probably PlayStation will do a mini state of play.
Sure,
just
probably. Sure.
Last of Us. And I mean, like, talking about this game, and I love The Last of Us. I really enjoy 1 and 2. Despite my gripes about how 1 feels to play now. This, I mean, $70 is still stings a little. I think you're right. There should be some kind of upgrade path because I have bought it twice as well as the DLC when it first came out for The Last of Us Part 1 in 2014. I remember because it was Valentine's Day and I didn't have a date, so I just stayed in and bought The Last of Us DLC.
That's bleak.
Yeah, it's a bleak
like the game.
time. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. I'm really sad. What can make me more sad? Perfect. You know?
The end of the world. But I think, you know, I'm intrigued to see how it plays, and I won't necessarily be happy about the price point, but I would pick it up and I'd want to play it again. Like, I have PlayStation Plus Premium. I hope that it gets a trial. Weirdly, I would kind of use a game trial for that before I maybe purchase it.
I hope I can buy a trial.
I hope I can buy a trial.
So like the Steam Next Fest is on. Here's like 5,000 demos, all completely free. And Sony's like, hey, we're going to charge you for 3 demos a month. You know, it's ridiculous.
But, I mean, speaking of Steam, there's going to be the VR demo stuff is coming in next week, which I am very excited about.
Oh, really? I didn't even know about that.
I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah. Wait, I sent it to my friend Craig earlier today.
Wait, are you saying like VR, like a Steam Next
like
Fest
a
but for VR
demo,
games? That's cool.
Sounds extremely tight.
The first Steam VR Fest brings a demo.
Sick.
Yeah, it's coming next week, according to Rock Paper Shotgun. So I'm very excited.
Thank you for that.
I love it.
Yeah, this is your VR corner.
Finally.
But the thing that gets me about Last of Us Part 1 is it makes all the sense in the world that they're doing it because of the TV show. And I even think, like, yes, we got to finally see Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey front on in costume and stuff, but it's like, I kind of want to see more of it. I'm struggling to kind of get caught up in the excitement of this announcement because it is, if you think about it, really intrinsically linked to the TV show. And while I'm super excited for that because of the people involved, most notably Craig Metzen, who not only did he do the Hangover movies, but he did Chernobyl, which was phenomenal.
The goat.
You know, I'm really excited to see where they can take the show. I struggle to kind of understand why I should really, really care about this remaster, and it feels bad. At least I feel like optics wise that it's the devs that are saying it, but like they feel like they have to defend it because there's nothing out there to kind of show people otherwise, which is kind of my feeling about it. Gerard, are you into it?
I loved both games. They both had a ton of faults, but I loved them intrinsically through and through. I have to see more. Like I think Ralph said it best, like cutscenes and presentations fine, but if that's the case, just make The Last of Us Part 1 a cinematic story. You know, go the Netflix, I hate to say this, go the Netflix CGI Resident Evil animated route where you just have the guys at Naughty Dog make a story abridged version of The Last of Us that tells us the story of the first game.
Or if you want to do it Resident Evil style, just do it, make it stupid.
Yeah.
I've heard early grumblings that the new Resident Evil Netflix show is actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I've seen some.
Oh hell yeah! I'm really excited. Because God, Welcome to Raccoon City was the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen.
I haven't watched it. As a inaugural gift to my fellow friends at G4, I rented a movie theater. I bought a bunch of booze and we went and saw it, and it was like doing our own little riff tracks live, because I have never felt more hurt. It was Max Payne. The movie hurt me deeply.
Yes.
Welcome to Raccoon City was the first one that hurt me more than Max Payne.
Yeah. I watched it alone in a movie theater. I'm so glad you did it better than I did. Watched it alone man in a movie theater.
That's great.
Just sobbing into it.
I saw it twice. I went once on Thanksgiving by myself, and then the second time I had to bring friends because I couldn't make things up. I had to say, this is what happens in the movie. And they were like, what? And I said, let's go to the theater. I'll pay for it. Let's go.
Did you guys all lose it when when Irons is briefing the STARS members, and then he turns and looks and Leon's there and he's like, what are you doing here, Leon? Get the fuck out of here. I think that's the funniest thing ever.
Every character tells you their name.
So good.
Every sentence.
I'm a Jill sandwich.
Valentine. I don't know, Chris Redfield. What about you, Albert Wesker? Like everyone.
I want to watch this so desperately. Please do.
Also, wait. So hang on. Gerard, Jake, and I have all said a sad thing we've done. Going to the cinema alone on Thanksgiving to see Resident Evil. Going to the cinema alone to see Resident Evil. Playing The Last of Us alone on Valentine's Day. Ralph, I'm afraid you're going to have to give one.
Oh, shit. Okay. I can't think of anything super sad right now, but don't worry. Give me time and let's come back. I'll bust out with it later.
Yeah, let's
and I'll be like,
back on that.
Are you okay, Luce? What happened?
My watch thought I was talking to it.
You're talking to it, right.
Oh my god, it scared the shit out of me. I'm sorry. Well, I'm definitely going to circle back on that to make sure you give us a sad
definitely.
story.
Don't worry, I'm not saying that they don't exist. They definitely exist. It's just I'm drawing blanks right now, so inspiration will come later.
And in another sad story, the E3's back. No, I'm kidding. I'm excited the E3's coming back.
Wow.
I know, I'm sorry, it was too easy. The ESA has announced that ReedPop are going to be running point on organizing E3 2023. It's going to be coming back to LA. I know we were all kind of hoping it would go to Vegas just because Vegas is fun.
Oh, man. Wouldn't that be the best thing ever if E3 was in Vegas? Oh, my God.
Vegas. Put it in Vegas.
No one's rocking up to any of their appointments, though. That's the thing, right? It would be the least productive E3 of all time.
Well, you know what?
Fantastic.
Fuck it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just get hammered, hang out with the devs. Yo, what you do? How's like making this game? How's so cool?
Hey, what's Phil Spencer like?
I mean, no. Was he really
Big fan?
Like,
I just really like. I'll turn off the mic. You tell me, okay?
Yeah.
you guys see Reggie? Have you seen Reggie Fazema? I'm looking for a Reggie Fazema.
I mean, already it seems like we're pretty against this, but ReedPop organize New York Comic Con, Star Wars Celebration, probably most notably PAX.
Yeah.
And in the UK, they own a bunch of websites too. So Eurogamer, I think they own like Outside Xbox.
They own Eurogamer. No way.
Feel like they do. I'm gonna double check that now. Eurogamer.
ReedPop?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good on them. Eurogamer's a good outlet.
Great.
Good
they own Gamer Network. Yeah. So that means I think they own like Rock Paper Shotgun, Outside Xbox.
Is Digital Foundry part of that network, or they just partner with them? Because I know the Eurogamer always do an article on Digital Foundry's content. I'm not sure if that's because they own them or if they just like have a partnership agreement with them.
Let me look. Digital Foundry.
Well,
Digital Foundry.
Yes, they do. They are part of.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
It's a good team up. I think ReedPop does put like, as someone who just likes going to PAX. I'm a PAXer person. Also a Star Wars Celebration person. Like they put on good events, and then there's a lot of people like there's people behind the scenes involved in this that I think are pretty qualified and pretty good. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of old ReedPop people. They have some gaming media people like working on it. Like it seems good.
Chris Dring, like the games-industry.biz.
Yeah, some
folks
website
are
guys,
helping
yeah.
out. Yeah. So that's super exciting. Like, I mean, that's the broad question: is, are you hopeful about the future of E3?
I just want them to pick a lane and tell us what the lane is.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a PAX where people can come in person and there's panels and there's events and there's tournaments and there's cosplay and all this stuff? Or is it, hey, this is a window into the industry and games journalists and content creators and streamers are coming to talk to games media or games folks and the games they're making? And is that it? Because to do both,
Yeah.
I don't think it works. It doesn't work. And if you're going to go that route, you got to copy what Gamescom is doing and clearly let both lanes exist in their own fashion.
But there's actually a third lane, and it's the kind of genesis of E3, which is a trade show, right? And that's, I think, something that we don't really talk about, but
Right.
That's a key part of it.
Like
Yeah.
it's a key part of it. Like there's lots of backroom deals that go on there, and
Totally.
there's all these little offices and stuff where you know some little company has a thing set up, and that's how they do it. Like a lot of you hang around there, and the person next to you is just an average like punter. The person to your right's a journalist, and the person in front of you is a buyer for like Best Buy
Yeah.
or whatever, and they're like going into a booth to figure out how many copies of Klonoa remake they're gonna buy.
Commit
Do you
to
know what I mean?
1
Like
million
for real.
units. Deal.
That's
Like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
no, like, Rockstar would never be on the show floor at E3 or something, but they would have like a little office or
100%.
either at Gamescom or
That's right.
it is like this centralized place. It was always kind of the big point in the calendar. Like everyone knew it was going to happen. Everyone would make the pilgrimage to LA in June, and not only are you showing games to the world, but you're showing games to potential partners.
Yeah, that's right.
That being said, the world has changed since E3 was, I guess you could say, relevant. Not to be horrible about it, but like obviously we haven't known a traditional E3 since 2019. Even then, it was the question of is E3 even relevant has been a discourse that's been running for a long time. But we're at a place now where publishers are doing their own thing. Publishers are going their own way. They're doing their own digital shows. Like Nintendo obviously paved the way with Directs, but now we've got Xbox streaming their showcases. We've got PlayStation State of Plays. We have different cadences for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the big summer thing. Like I remember 2020, Sony pulled out of June completely. They were like, no, we're going to take July. And then you've got Jeff Keighley, who I think the last few years, the success of the Game Awards, now Summer Game Fest, Playdays, has kind of become the de facto, this is where announcements are going to happen. So with all of this, I guess, more competition, do you think publishers are even going to want to go back to E3? Like they know they can do it by themselves? Or with Jeff?
Yeah.
Depends on expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Can you spend $250,000 renting a big old booth from the Los Angeles Convention Center? Because
quarter million is a very, very,
Very
very under. It's a small
conservative
amount. These
estimate.
guys are spending millions for a booth. Millions.
sure.
Yeah. So,
it's like
great.
I don't know. I feel like just in terms of I feel like they're aware of that. Like they gotta be thinking, if they do want the publishers involved, they have to be thinking like, oh, we gotta really do something to get them in, or they're just gonna go a complete opposite direction. Because like I think about it in terms of like as a fan, as a viewer, and like I talk to so many people who are like, what happened to E3? Why can't I just sit on my couch and stream YouTube 2 whole days of just cool events? Now it's all over the place. Like it's almost like I don't think E3 can wrangle that all back together and make it really feel like this umbrella thing. So I'm kind of more like just blow it out and make a unique event, maybe for fans, open to the public, whatever at this point, because I think it's almost the whole idea of like sitting down and gobbling up a bunch of announcements over, like, I would like take off work for 2 days and like watch it on G4 on the TV channel. And
me too.
Now that's like, there's no way we can get that back. So it's like Keighley, the publishers, they're going to be all over the place. I feel like it's too much to wrangle that back. So just make a cool event.
I mean, I don't know. Like for example, even when E3 was beginning to splinter, you still had a kind of calendar of events around that time, right? So you still had EA Play, for example, which wasn't at E3, it was a separate venue, but they were doing it in the same window. And then you had Devolver Digital, who always sit up in the car park across the street because they're cheeky bastards and they get away with it, right? And you'd have other stuff. The PC Game Show was... I'm trying to think if that was officially branded as part of E3 or not.
Took place right smack in the middle of all of it, though. Like in the chaos.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But my point is that, like, look, I don't know. I think if you build it, they will come. I really do think that of E3. I think that if you won't get Nintendo back... Yeah. Or no, I wouldn't even say that, actually. I wouldn't say that. Nintendo right up until the end were doing a booth at E3, right? But it was Sony that pulled out and Activision that pulled out.
Yeah.
And then EA were doing something else on this separate thing. But the industry is still so gigantic. And I think we're so often fixated on those massive players that we think that, that's it. That's all there is. But they represent just a portion of it, right? And if you were to host an E3 and Embracer Group, for example, were to go really large in their investment with their massive portfolio of studios that's coming along, and I'm sure Square Enix would be keen on that. And Xbox has always, and Phil Spencer seems very committed to E3, like he said this on record many times. I think Nintendo would probably continue to have a presence there. So I think that you could do it, and I think the publishers would be up for it. Not all of them. Some of them would want to do it on their own terms and whatever. But I think there's more than enough there to make a really cool show that captures a lot of what we used to have in the past, and I'd be super pleased about that because I love E3. Like same as you guys, man. It was like my Christmas time. It was my favorite week of the year every year.
You're so smart. You convinced me. Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. I changed my mind. I take it back. Yeah, all right. Let's see if it can happen. Especially just for like the fun moments, all those like wacky E3 moments you stumble upon. One year,
Kanye.
I think it was. Yes, I saw the back of his head from like far away. That was crazy.
I have a Kanye story. I had to. It wasn't a big one. It was just we were at the Nintendo booth and he came by
told me this one.
and forced all of us to leave. And then I had my Sony appointment and I went over there and they forced all of us to leave because Kanye showed up.
Is that when he was going to meet Kojima? Was that one where he's like, I must meet Kojima?
That was me. That's me anytime I go to a gaming event.
Right. Yeah,
true. But just like even fun stuff like the year it opened, like one of the years they started opening it up to the public, to having fans come in and stuff.
Yeah.
IGN, I think, was doing like recording live reactions of people coming out of a booth after playing a game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like for Destiny 2 or something.
Right.
And or something Activision. And I remember walking out and like an IGN like intern with a camera was like, "Hey, do you want to record reactions?" And I was like, "Sure." And then he's like, "Okay, go ahead." And I was like, "Hey, everybody!" And I just turned on my shit, and they were like, "What is going on?"
That's sick. I love that. Oh my god, that's amazing.
So good. I'm trying to think. One time, we had a guy, and we were not live. We were doing like pre-records. We would record something, and then we would actually air it an hour later just in case something went wrong. And one time this I can't remember what game it was for, but this there was a developer and this other guy. We assumed he was another developer. The PR assumed he was with us. He was just a random fucking guy.
Awesome.
And he got in.
Yeah,
what
he
a
got
legend.
in. And then midway through, one of our producers was just like, "This guy's a phony. Get him out."
That's awesome.
Like,
Some kind of Scooby-Doo moment.
Yeah.
Damn it. I would have gotten away with it too if we were you pesky GameSpot employees.
It never aired, but we were all just like, okay, God, we need to like double,
That's
triple
so
check
great.
but it was just, you'd have those moments like of just random people who you'd see, like random celebrities who would bring their kids or something, or just, walking past Kojima randomly in a hall. I walked past Miyamoto once and I was like,
You breathed his air.
I actually went up and met him because I was like, I'm never going to have this opportunity again.
Sure.
My favorite E3 story happened in 2019. Previously, before that E3 happened, I flew to Japan for a preview event for Sekiro. And as I was out there, I extended my trip for 2 weeks so I could enjoy a vacation. And at the time, I was becoming kind of buddy-buddy with Suda51.
Hell
and
yeah!
Suda's like the best, and I admired his work. And so he and we met up near Grasshopper HQ. We got together. We ate the world's spiciest ramen. We drank till 3 or 4 in the morning. It was like a dream. And there was
That's
a
so
translator
cool.
who was like trying to keep up with the two of us. We were just having a great time. And we both the next day like emailed each other like, man, we went so hard. We shouldn't have done that, but it was so fun meeting you and hanging out. Fast forward to E3 2019, a couple months later, and I'm walking by just one of the halls, and the translator recognized me and goes, "Completionist," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I turn over, and Suda sees me, and then Suda jumps into my arms,
Oh
like
my
full
God.
on, like jumped into my arms, and
That's
I like
funny.
spun him around
very
and put him
wholesome.
down, and we hugged, and I was like, nothing will ever top that for me. That was just such a top 5 E3 thing.
Oh my God.
That's cool. That's
Oh,
very cool.
well, we'll
I-
obviously have. Oh, go on.
No, I was going to say, I think one question I would definitely have is whether or not you guys want it to be more of that community thing. Because like PAX, for example, is all about those community events. Like they have a whole hall devoted to tabletop and like whatever, board games, that sort of shit. Do you reckon E3 needs that? Like, is that something? Because that's definitely not what it is now. It's two big trade halls with lots of like the hands-on demo units, and that's it. Do you think it needs to go in that PAX direction, or should it stay kind of like what it is?
I used to be very protective of it because it was something that I felt like I worked very hard to like, one day I'll go to E3. Wow, so exclusive. And I got there. And then when they started opening it up to the public, I was like, I don't know about this. Now, I don't care. Like, I'm like, everybody should have some fun here.
Jake, get
Like,
out
I
of
don't
my
care.
head. Get out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Like, it's like, maybe it's like the last 2 years and how like, I don't know, the world ended like 3 times or 4 times. So like everything's different. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, let's all just go nuts, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Look, all I want one of 2 things, and they're very easy asks. One, make a website that just memorizes all my login information
Oh, God,
so that every year I don't have to create an account and act like I've never been to the show before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Comic-Con does a thing where once you're signed up and you're in their system, you never have to remake an account ever again.
Yeah.
It's always good
And
to go.
If there is one organization we can trust with personal data as well, it's the ESA.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
They should have my credit
Which
card
is
numbers up there,
which
social
is
security.
Number
Yeah.
two, for the love of God, just hire a company to do all your data storage, because man, oh man, I don't want my information doxed again. I'm sick of it.
I was gonna say, like, in terms of, I don't necessarily think a board game kind of area or anything like that would maybe work. I think Xbox is doing some great stuff with FanFest, like at Playdays. We were talking to Harvey Smith, and he'd just come from Xbox FanFest, and he said, there was a signing, and that's the kind of thing that would be really cool and like a peak. But also, I think panels is something that they could really bring in from PAX to E3. Like, you have all the developers there. You also have like a bunch of games media there and like actors and stuff. And I think that could be a really cool thing to incorporate. And also, you could live stream those, so it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Reed Pop, if you're listening, I want to cut. That was my idea. But
The other thing as well, and I think I would also sort of, just to blow it out a little bit, is like, right now we think of E3 as just this physical event. But I think that these online festivals that we're having, like Steam Next Fest, for example, we're like, oh, well, that's a totally different thing. Well, I don't think they should be a totally different thing. I know Jeff Keighley has spoken in the past about blurring these lines. And I think that we should look to create an online space for E3 that is as interesting as the physical space. So if you're going to have panels and keynotes, then make sure they're being live streamed, and and that's not just to Twitch. I mean, obviously to Twitch, but to other platforms as well. And demos, man. Like, okay, why is it that only game journalists and people who line up for 4 hours can play, the new Zelda game? Why can't you just put up a demo of that at the same time? Like, what's the harm? Like, for real, what is the harm?
if the Tribeca Film Festival can figure out parsec demos of upcoming video games, E3 can.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, you know what I mean? I just think the idea that E3 should only exist for those there in person or those just watching a live stream, I just don't think that's quite right. I think that it would be great to see the concept of video game festivals and events kind of blow out to really incorporate virtual space and virtual hands-on a lot more than it currently does.
So you're saying do it in the metaverse?
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I'll just keep
and
pushing it.
your ticket is an NFT that you purchase 6 months out.
Yeah, baby.
And you can put it up. You can put it up on the GameStop marketplace.
Yeah, baby.
And yeah, man,
You get an exclusive gun with your name on it in the digital world. Just what we
I
need
love
right now.
technology.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Love it.
Well, E3 is usually, I don't know if you feel the same, but it marks the halfway point in my year. Like, I always think about E3 as being kind of the midpoint. You know, you spend the year getting excited for E3, and then you spend the rest of the year playing the games you saw at E3. We're kind of around that point now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take your temperature on how you think video gaming has been going in 2022. Obviously, still feeling the effects of the pandemic, game delays, but I think it would be bad to say that 2022 hasn't been full of bangers, because it has absolutely been. So I guess, Jake, what's been your kind of highlight? What I don't want to say like what trends have you noticed, but have you noticed any changes in how you're approaching the games you're playing in 2022?
So I'm biased because I'm always just like, I love video games. Everything's great all the time. But yeah, I mean, like it feels like for the past, like, I guess this half a year, it feels like we've had a little less on the horizon. Like we've been dealing with like pandemic stuff and delays and stuff, but like this is the first time, I think, maybe last year a little bit too, but really looking towards the fall and going, oh wow, a couple of things. But the first half of the year, like I was kept really busy with things. I always say that, like, just because there's not like a AAA game releasing that month, there's like a billion other games that come out that are like probably pretty awesome. And there's been a lot of things keeping me busy. I've also been on like a hardware kick. I'm working on a video right now for my channel, like a mid-year recap. And I'm also mentioning not games, like the Playdate. The Playdate has been keeping me busy. Sure. I've been tinkering with that.
Are you liking it?
It's the game experiences aren't always as compelling as I was hoping. But I still really, really like the idea behind it. I also love the hardware design. I'm a sucker for design and stuff. So it just as like a looking at it thing, it's cool. But it is a luxury. It is expensive and it is super niche. Expensive. So like I can't really recommend it to people unless like you're an insane weirdo like me, where like if I didn't work in video games, I would have bought this. I would have put it on a credit card and put myself in debt, just because like I'm always looking for that taste, that new thing. So things like that at least have been keeping me pretty satisfied. And then the Steam Deck came around, and just playing and experiencing things on the Steam Deck. And like one of my favorite games to play on the Steam Deck is, of course, just like tinker and just not actually play games, but just see if I can get games running. But like it's a meme.
I love that.
And the girlfriend review video is fantastic for that. They highlighted that so well. But like it's a real thing, and I'm having fun with that, man. Like, yeah, Elden Ring's cool. I kind of forgot about Dying Light 2. But it was good.
Oh God, I forgot that was his
I did too.
Yeah, but yeah, that's really me.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard, what have been your highlights of 2022 so far?
Let me tell you about a little game called Vampire Survivors.
Oh,
with 3 for 3.
Yeah,
so dangerous.
That's no. In all seriousness, I think I've been blown away by how we are now in year 3 of a pandemic, and yet still the game quality is still there in terms of these bigger titles, right? Obviously, I don't need to say it, but Elden Ring, I think, just really blew us away. I think not surprised by Nintendo not hitting the landing as much as I would have loved them to have in the last year or two of their releases. Mario Strikers Battle League was a huge, important title to me that wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was just fine. And I think like games that are just fine, I think make me more mad than games that are bad or games that are good, because it's like, you were so close to the finish line. You just had to add a little more polish to it.
Also, you play so many games, right? So I feel like if one isn't memorable, it's like it hurts even worse.
Yeah, I remember it for being not memorable. Yeah, and that's not a good thing.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, but I will say, there have been plenty of surprises for me. Vampire Survivors was definitely the one that I didn't think was gonna take me down a rabbit hole. That I am now at 150 hours.
Ooh.
I have tried.
God.
Have you tried streaming it, Lucy?
No, because I watched Dan Reichert stream it, and I was my PC, like the bit rate is not high enough.
It's not the PC. It's the game. It's the game.
Ooh.
Like Twitch does not have the right proper bit rate to ingest the game. So when you play it, you and the game become pixels. Like,
Sick.
How do you stream the unstreamable? It's the undead.
It's nuts. It's nuts. I've tried to stream it several times now, and it just does not work. But I think for me personally, you know, checkpoint wise, I guess like talking about stuff that's like been really good so far. Horizon was incredible, and it just kind of felt like we forgot about Horizon for Forbidden West,
totally
and
did.
that was.
I wonder why.
I did.
I mean,
I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, I mean, same thing happened with Breath of the Wild, right? Like Breath of the Wild came out, everyone forgot about Horizon. You know, Elden Ring came out, everyone forgot about Horizon. But both games, phenomenal pieces of work. I was more impressed with the second one in terms of how clean it was and what the final product was. But honestly, I hate to sound like a snob, but I haven't bought as many games in 2022 than I normally would. I've been pretty conservative with my choices, and I don't know what that is. And maybe it's just because the games that are coming out aren't for me, or if I'm just not as excited. I think I'm more excited to talk about games and to see previews for games than I am to actually play games nowadays, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's been a weird year, I think, for me in terms of games. I feel like I flip-flopped between old favorites and like comfort games and new. I think I've gone more out of my comfort zone with games this year, and I've been playing more games with friends. Like we played a bunch of Evil Dead, for example, which is like
Evil Dead was so good.
Pretty good.
I've never seen Evil Dead. I know.
What?
I know.
Oh, wow.
I know. And so, like, for me, I'm playing with Callie Plaguey, who used to work at GameSpot and now works over at Polygon, and, like, Matt Padgett and Jake Decker, who edits this wonderful show. Like, and so playing with them, they all know Evil Dead really well. And so I'm just like, what's the difference between this Ash and that Ash?
What's a Kandarian demon? Like,
yeah, Callie's just like, pick that one, you're fine. But also just, you know, I've kind of, this is the summer where I've been hyper-fixating on The Sims, as I do every summer. But I've also been, you know, playing games that I have been meaning to get off my backlog, just because I feel like I've been afforded the time to. So I'll talk about Plague Tale in a bit, but I've been playing that. I've meant to play it for ages. I'm replaying Mass Effect. I played, you know, now that I got Elden Ring out of the way, I feel like I'm going back and just kind of picking up stuff that I've meant to. And as well, like, I recently got a gaming PC that I can actually play proper games on, and so it's been a kind of a whole new world where I had Steam and I would play select things on it, but I would never really just kind of sit down and go, okay, no, this is me now. I'm gonna play like Neon White for the next 3 hours. Also, unfortunately, there's a game called Neon Blight that just launched.
Oh,
Completely different game.
right.
But yeah, it's kind of, it felt like a weird year where I haven't necessarily just been excited about what's upcoming, because they have been few and far between. Now October and November are completely stacked, but it's been kind of nice to have a little bit of freedom with what I play. Ralph, what about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As in, obviously we had that. January was not much, it was pretty chill, but then February was the most insane February I've ever experienced in ever, really, because we had Sifu, Dying Light, Horizon, Elden Ring, and probably some other stuff that I just totally forgot about because it all just kind of got swept under the tsunami of those 4 games. But that was crazy. And since then, not a lot in terms of really big things that have really stood out and that have kind of taken over. I mean, obviously Neon White's this sort of critical darling, but I haven't properly played that yet. I've been slowly chilling out and going through things bit by bit. Like I played Weird West, for example, which I was kind of looking forward to, but then ended up being a bit of a bummer. There was Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which was a nice surprise. Yeah, remember that one?
About the game
right.
That was good too.
No. So that was actually good. Surprisingly good. Yep. And then, for example, like Ghostwire Tokyo, I missed that last year because it was last year it was released, right?
Oh, that was this year.
Oh my god, it was this year.
It was this year.
It was March, wasn't it? It was March.
It was in that crazy period, right?
Yeah, so I got into that a little bit late because I think I was so burnt out in Feb, I just needed a break. Then I played Ghostwire, and so I mean, I feel like usually in our job we kind of or at least certainly the way that I do it, is like I'm just a slave to the release schedule. I'm like, what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? But because it's been quite light on, it's given me a little bit of breathing room to play some other things. And I mean, for example, I went back and played Subnautica Below Zero recently. I'm not sure if any of you guys have played that.
No.
Yeah, not great, unfortunately. I'll probably talk more about that in a dedicated video later. But yeah, a bit of a letdown versus the original. And you know, obviously keeping Destiny in the on the back burn as always, which is nice. It's nice to have time for that and not feel guilty about it. There is the dream to go and play Final Fantasy 14,
We all have that
the
dream.
latest expansion. That is the latest, because I mean, I'm all caught up except for the latest expansion, so that's definitely the goal to do that.
Yeah.
But
For you.
yeah, I mean, like it's been, as I said, a nice relaxed period post February to just sort of enjoy video games versus feeling like, oh, there's too many video games and I'm never going to be able to cover them all. So I've actually had a really nice couple of months actually. So yeah, it's been great.
But now, unfortunately, games are coming out. Not unfortunately, I'm just being,
Could you?
I'm being a dick. But you know, it feels like the latter half of this year is going to be kind of a reverse of that. And you know, as you know, we all work in the content creation space, and it is kind of nice to be like, oh, thank God, the big hitters are coming. Like post Elden Ring, there hasn't really been anything quite like Elden Ring. But you know, with God of War Ragnarok, I mean, I was on Morning Mess with Jeff Grubb today. We're recording on Wednesday, and we were talking about just how stacked October, November is. Even September with Last of Us. You know, we were talking about it because Bayonetta's finally got a release date. We've got
I think we should sell short September, because September kicks off with
Oh, yeah.
Splatoon 3, Warhammer Darktide, Metal Hellsinger, that rhythm game, which is pretty cool actually,
really
Evil
good.
West,
Evil
and
West.
then Grounded 1.0 and Deerfield Chronicle. That's just September.
That's just
And then
September, and then you've got Overwatch 2. Finally, you've got.
No, we're talking
Gotham
good games that we're
Knights.
interested in right here. That's a different discussion, right?
So it's
How did
interesting.
you wound me this way?
It's interesting though, because like I just helped put together the list of the second half of the year releases for Game Ranks, and it is a lot of good stuff, but it's also kind of weird because it's a lot of third party, where it's like you look at like what's like Xbox. If you look at Xbox and PlayStation, it's very like specific, where PlayStation is God of War and I guess The Last of Us is like, which like I if I sound like an asshole, but like I don't totally count. But
I totally agree. You are an asshole.
But then
Absolutely.
Xbox, thank you. Yes, I am. Thank you. It means a lot coming from you. Oh,
So he's done.
Zing! Thank you very much.
Xbox, from what I can see, like we don't totally know. They have a lot of like those partnership games, like High on Life is like a kind of their joint, but like they don't have like a head. Like obviously, like Starfield is kind of like what would have been there. So
the only confirmed first-party Xbox stuff coming, there's September Grounded 1.0 and Pentiment, which is scheduled for November, I believe.
Oh, I'm stoked for Pentiment.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but then that's it. And I think that was the narrative when Starfield got the bump. Everyone was like, oh, Xbox has no games this year. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of true, actually. But that's okay. They'll have lots of games next year, so that's fine. You know.
But you can play third-party games on Xbox on pretty much every device you own now. So
right.
It's not like Xbox is hurting.
And also there's still
Play it on
some
your
things that like
Apple
we
TV.
don't have dates for that are still slated for Q4 that might actually make it, that like we don't know.
Like-
so
Like which ones?
what do I have in front of me right now? Atomic Heart is still a maybe.
Oh yeah, sure. Is that still
yeah.
this year? Right. Okay.
It's a
I have
maybe.
Sons of the Forest, which I know is in
Yes.
October sometime. High on Life is scheduled for October
Yep.
as well, but no date.
July, we've got
yeah.
stuff like Bear and Breakfast. We have all the Day of the Dev stuff is coming out over the summertime.
Oh yeah, right. Sure.
Super exciting. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's
It's a fun
Saints
year.
Row as well is in August. But I think I
shit,
feel
I
like
forgot about
I think the only massive like takeover kind of title that's coming between now and the end of the year is God of War Ragnarok. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Bayonetta just got announced, but even then, Bayonetta's
Call
fantastic,
of
but it's
Duty?
not going to take over
Call
like
of
that.
Duty, Modern Warfare.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, Modern
That's
Warfare, we
what I
can't
was
sell
gonna
that
say.
short.
But like,
I don't know. God of War just seems. Sorry, I've been God of Work mode. God of War just seems so. Just it's sweep season. You know what I mean?
Didn't a game like
it's
shift?
coming.
There was another game that like shifted their release date. What was it? It was last week.
Skull and Bones
Forspoken.
comes out.
Forspoken was
Forspoken.
like,
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
Forspoken
we'll
just
see you in the spring.
Yeah.
which was smart because Skull and Bones is coming out the day before.
Oh man.
Good luck with that, Ubisoft. Good luck with that.
Also,
have you guys seen that gameplay, by the way? Just as a side, have you guys seen the Skull and Bones gameplay?
Yeah. I like Pirates, but I don't know, man. That type of
I've
stuff.
seen the trailer.
Don't care. I'm sorry.
Dude, it just looks so... Because, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if you guys played it back in 2018 at E3.
No.
And I was like... Yeah, because it was playable in 2018 at
wild.
E3, and I played it.
I was on the stage doing the interviews. I definitely talked to the dev team back then.
I was like a
I
teenager.
didn't play it.
So long ago.
And then I stepped out of the seat with Ubisoft. They're like, "So what did you think?" I'm like, "I don't know about that one, man." I was just like, "I don't know."
Did you say it like a pirate? You're like, I don't know about that.
This
Yar,
one,
not
you
sure
need
about
more
that
time
one,
in the oven. So
They then erased Ralph's name from the press list for Ubisoft, just right there. In
no,
real
but
time.
I've done that before with UV, and they've actually been pretty cool with it. Like when I played Rollerdrome like years ago as well, like that Roller Champions or whatever it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, this was years ago. It was playable, and they're like, "What'd you think?" And I'm like, "That was shit." And they're like, "Oh, really? You're the only one that said that?" I'm like, "Okay, fair enough." But I'm here to
the
tell
only
you.
one who said it to your face.
Yeah. But then like that game had like another 3 years of development. It's already just been released in free to play. By the way, that was like 2 months ago. Have you heard about that game since then?
Nope.
I didn't even know it came out. I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's.
There's that other one coming
that's
out with
great.
guns in it. That's going to be way better. Rollerblades with guns.
What?
Yeah.
The one by Roll7?
Yeah.
The one that was in the PlayStation?
Yeah, that
thing?
seems way cool.
What, a roller derby game? Oh, you mean Rollerdrome?
Yeah, that's the one where you
Yes.
do jumps and flips and guns.
That looks nice.
Way cooler.
That
and
looks
shit.
nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty soon as well. So,
Yeah, so
Good
Sea of
idea.
Thieves, it's like the whole presentation was like all the loops and all the gameplay stuff. And I'm like, I can't
Yes.
really watch a video of menus and get excited. I have to like see if I'll actually play it and get hooked on it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
It was like that Elden Ring meme with the Ubisoft UI.
Yeah.
But like that's what Skull and Bones actually is.
Yeah.
It's that unironically.
The only other big
So-
thing that doesn't have a date, but is Hogwarts Legacy is slated for holiday 2022. So
That's
I
been
keep
delayed
getting-
a few times already.
I keep
so I think that's
getting
coming.
Epic Game Store. Please pre-order. Please tell your friends about this game and pre-order it. Like it's got the homepage takeover on Epic.
tell your
Game
friends
Store. It
about
has
Harry
one.
Potter. You ain't never heard
No,
about
I'm
Harry Potter.
kidding. It's because in my head I always have the Arrested Development. Please tell your friends about this show, and I work it into like everything.
Oh man, that's great.
So that's why
Callisto
it's like, please,
Protocol. How have we forgotten
Oh,
that?
fuck,
That
okay, yeah,
is.
Yeah. That's the
that is
end of the
actually. Is that the thing? That's December 2nd.
Does that mean it's
December
not going to be
2nd.
eligible for
That's how we
Game
close
Awards?
out the year.
Like,
I think
So-
I'm not sure what the cutoff
I
is for
forget
that.
what
Actually,
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I should know that.
for GameSpot, like we have a consideration for games that come out at the very, very tail end, like that. Because I remember we had to have that conversation when Cyberpunk came out.
Sure.
And so we were like, what if Cyberpunk is going to be, game of the year? And so I know that a lot of places, like we have the consideration for it. I'm pretty sure IGN would probably do something similar. I do think that the Game Awards has a hard cutoff, though.
They do. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot what it is.
No, they do,
but
they
it's
definitely
pretty
do.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Right.
so-
That's going to be because Callisto Protocol on December 2nd is the last release that I have in my schedule.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I think that's it for the year. Gotham Knights as well is in October. There's definitely stuff, and Mario Rabbids, by the way, I'm actually very looking
I'm
forward to.
excited.
Mario
That's on October 20th.
Rabbids!
Yeah,
It's
that's
gonna be
gonna
so good.
So there's lots of stuff, but as I said, none of it except for maybe Callisto Protocol, Call of Duty, and God of War. I think are those three big ones that are really gonna seize the zeitgeist. Everything else is kind of stuff to look forward to. I'm really keen on, but it's that sort of like second tier offering. But I think it's still a good end of year. I think there's still lots of stuff that I'm really keen on actually.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of new games, let's talk about the major game releases. Who wants to read aloud? What is that? What is the thing in America? Popcorn reading?
Popcorn.
I've never
What's
heard of that.
popcorn reading?
Yeah, it's when you say, it's like you say who wants to go. You say popcorn, and then you choose a person, and then that person reads, and then they say popcorn, and they choose someone else.
That's dumb. I hate that.
In the UK, that would be
sounds-
just called social anxiety.
It was meant.
sounds
It was
terrible.
meant for children, you guys.
Oh,
okay.
It was
Right,
meant
sure.
like.
okay.
It was like meant for like second, third, fourth graders to like break out of their social shell to like toss the
Get 'em.
baton to someone else, and you'd say it in a way where you didn't feel weird for picking the girl you liked across the room.
No, now you need to learn
reason.
the basics of CQC in school. So major game releases. We have Match Point Tennis, Arcadegeddon. Is that
Arcadegeddon?
Arcadegeddon.
Yep.
We have Klonoa, the collection of 1 and 2, the remake, remaster. We have Gwent, Rogue Mage, and we have Powerwash Simulator.
That
what's going
segues
on.
us in very nicely into
Yes.
what we've been playing, because Ralph and I have both been playing Powerwash Simulator, and we talked about his review at the top of the show. But Ralph, please, for the uninitiated, please sell them on Powerwash Simulator.
But do you guys get all these emails all the time from?
Yes.
We're making this simulator and that simulator, and it's always from Playways, I think.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, they're pumping out 500 simulator games a week.
Cashier Simulator, like Clerk
you name it,
Simulator.
man.
Yeah.
Anything. Like, oh man, it's too much. So I have totally closed off my brain to the word simulator. If it
Same.
appears in a game title, I'm like, no, just my brain
Unless
screens
it's a
it
truck
immediately.
or a train, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So I was like, whatever, this is dumb. But then I just saw it blowing up on Twitter when I mentioned the Game Pass lineup for the month, because I was like, oh, Peppa Pig rules, man. It's a Game Pass. Let's go. But everyone's like, nah, dude, Powerwash. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. I thought you guys were joking, but you were being serious. And so I was like, I'll give it a crack. And I learned that Square Enix are publishing it, which is super weird, by the way. I'm not sure how that fits, but okay. And yeah, I dumped a good sort of 15 hours into it over the last few days. And it's so unbelievably satisfying. Like, I just can't describe to you how, like, the feeling that you get when you look back on the results of your labors. You know, you just feel like, oh, I've accomplished something here. And it's just it's deep, man. It's just like, it just gets you. And I loved it. I really did. I listened to an audiobook while I was playing it. I was just sitting there chilling out. I made myself a drink at one point, like a nice paper plane, if anyone knows what that is. Fancy little cocktail I mixed myself up. And man, I was just living the dream. And I think I'm becoming increasingly interested in these kind of chilled out Zen games, because I also am playing recently this game called Dorf Romantic. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah. Oh, it's so chill. It's great.
Yeah. So Dorf Romantic is actually the second highest rated game of the year on Steam, right? According to Steam 250. It is a little indie title that is basically about building villages, and you get you get randomly handed tiles, and then you just kind of drop them down.
Yeah.
And over time, you build out a landscape with a village and a fields and a windmill and a lake and all this stuff. It's almost like a game of Tetris, except there's no failure state, really. Well, there kind of is, but not really. Really chilled out, really nice. And just that vibe that those sorts of games give you. I've never really been interested in that, but I'm getting interested in it now. I don't know why.
Baby.
Maybe it's
Let's
just
go.
like
SnowRunner.
Is that another?
Let's go, dude.
I've heard such great things about that.
Have you
as
ever
well.
wanted to drive a car slowly through the woods in the mud? Come on down to Game Pass.
For real though, so many people when that came out was like, dude, this is the best thing ever. You have to look at it. I'm like, that sounds terrible. Not interested. But I'm beginning to understand as a result of Powerwash, which really showed me that kind of like promised land of what those games could be.
It showed you the way. No, and I watched your review, and I was like looking for something to stream yesterday, and I ended up streaming that and Mass Effect, because Mass Effect was free. I call that kind of genre podcast games, where you can just turn your brain off. And I used to do this back when Xbox was good and let me do this, when you used to be able to fucking snap Netflix to the side.
Oh,
I
wow.
used to
all the time. It was so good.
I used to plow through like seasons of The Office and Lego games, and that was just my
That's nice.
brain turning off time.
It's weed
And then-
o'clock.
Yeah, back in the
gummies.
UK, so it was, you know,
Definitely not.
It was illegal there.
Yeah, it was very illegal. It was whatever
Tried
cider
bars,
I could afford from the corner shop. But no, and like I really appreciate that. But I streamed it yesterday, and it was really fun. I will say the multiplayer, I was still playing the easy access. Early access version.
We knew what you meant.
I was playing the early access version, and it kept kind of breaking multiplayer wise. Like I was trying to play with a few people, and like Phaedrum got in on one, couldn't get in the other. Tam couldn't join one, but he could join the, like, it was kind of weird. But we were playing on the big maps because there are like little things you can
Yeah,
clean, like a
yeah.
van or a slide or something. And then you can kind of come together and clean grand things. And there was one that we got, which was this massive fountain. You need
Yep.
you need different nozzles. And mine bugged out and I had unlimited soap.
Whoa,
Oh, sweet.
Power.
On one of the
Power.
big cleans. And this sounds so stupid, but we were giddy. And also, you can make your own fun with it because you can just draw whatever in the
Yep.
dirt. Like Tam was writing show feet. And
I saw that.
yeah, and like we were doing the cool S everywhere and stuff like that. And it's just really fun. And it's also it activates the lizard part of my brain.
Yes.
Because not only do you see things get cleaned, but there's also a little progress bar in the top corner. You
Yeah.
get the little cha-ching when you've cleaned
Bing.
something.
Yeah, I love
And there's also a menu where you can look through every part of the whatever you're cleaning and see if it's done or not. Like it activates every single part of that, and it is just really, really satisfying.
It's reverse Splatoon.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
The
Well,
loop
what
is
I
good.
said-
The loop is good.
Yeah,
like
what I
just
said-
like getting that, like, oh, okay, I washed off a rock, and then that you cha-ching and you get $5, and the numbers
Yeah.
keep going up, and then you can hop into the shop and buy more soap to make some of it go faster.
Yeah.
I just hopped into it before this podcast. I had 2 hours, and I was like, all right, let me dive in. I got some time, so I can hang with the kids here. And it immediately, all of a sudden, it was time to record the podcast. And because I was like, ugh. And I know it was good because my contact lenses were starting to like dry up and fall out of my eyes. Like, when you're like just so attached to a game, if you wear contacts, it's like you have to like remember to blink. So good on that.
I sort of said that it's like a coloring book for adults because
Yes.
you basically have these really dark environments and you trace the lines. And when you're done, you have this beautiful, colorful thing that's in front of you. And you're like, that's great. And apparently there was some trend a few years back where people were buying coloring books, like adults. Did you guys remember this?
That was
guys-
very
yes.
big in the
Yeah.
UK.
It was a thing where like grown-ass people would be giving each other coloring books as presents because they're like, hey man, this is good for you, you'll like this. And everyone's like, wow, thanks, that's weird. And then they would do it and they're like, actually this was pretty cool,
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the equivalent of that. It's got that same appeal.
It helps though
But,
because it's like well made. Because I've played a lot of these where like there's no good tangible feel to it. Like House Flipper was okay, PC Builder was like okay, but like this has a little bit more of like a tactile like oomph to it, from the sound effects to the even just like the distance you are to the object and how much water is actually blasting it, to the way the water looks, to the different options. Like there's so much more going on that like will pretty immediately gauge you, and then it lets you figure out some stuff on your own, like how to use soap, how the different attachments work. Did you guys? So for me, did you feel like immediately daunted once you started to hit like a big level? Because it very quickly, it's like, here, spray a truck, you little idiot. And then the second level is like, here's an entire backyard where a nuclear bomb went off. Good luck. And I was like, oh man, like how's the pacing as it gets further on?
Some of the levels get really big. Like imagine that backyard that you did. Imagine levels like 4 or 5 times the size of that, right?
Oh man.
So, or bigger, in fact, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
But like
You just got to
again,
figure
it's-
out the soap meta.
yeah, so, that's true.
Meta.
But you can also pause. That's the other thing. You can actually pause or like stop doing that clean partway through. If you just quit, it actually saves you progress, and you can go to your in progress jobs, and it lets you just come back to it. So you feel like, I'm bored of this playground. I'm gonna go and like do a house now, and you just
Brilliant.
press escape, go to the menu, go to the house. You're there in 3 seconds. Boom! It's a different location. You're doing the same thing. But yeah, but I also found as well, I don't know how your brains work, but like I would be like, oh, I'm doing one part of one surface, and then I would look to the right and I'd be like, I'm going to go do that part of that surface now. And so like, rather than doing this methodical kind of like section by section thing, I'd have this like, I don't have ADHD, but I imagine this is probably like ADHD adjacent, where I would have all these half finished panels, because I keep getting distracted by all this stuff. That's how I did it. So,
Have you guys ever
yeah.
used one in real life?
No, I wish.
No.
I have a question actually. I don't know if this is naive, but like, it feels like a very American thing, just blasting the shit out of something with water. Do you guys have those too? Like,
Yes, we have those
Yeah,
too.
we do.
It's not an American thing to wash things with
No,
water.
I think it's an American thing to have your own personal power washer.
yeah, because
No,
I do,
we
and
have
I
them
used it
here.
once.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
no,
would rent.
Like you
I
call a
don't,
man.
I don't know anyone with
Yeah.
a power washer. You'd call the man in.
So I wish this game added
my
a hard
neighbor
mode, because if you use one, if you like don't have the pressure right, like you could blast the shit out of things and like ruin things.
That's what I was thinking about when I was playing. I'm like, am I damaging this surface? And then I really went at it with like the hardest pressure right up close to test. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. Okay, this is chill. Let's just
Hard
go.
mode DLC. We'll have the completionist beat it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep.
Gerard, are you tempted now?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. Nice.
Yes.
No, like, look, you guys told me about it. I didn't really put it on my list, and then this whole time, for those of you watching on video, I've been distracted. It's because I've been looking at footage of this game. And
it would be an interesting completionist. It would be an interesting completionist playthrough because the game in itself is about completing. Obviously, all games are about completing things in some way, shape, or form, but this one is very much about completing something. It's about completing each panel, completing the level. It's just sort of satisfying to watch it. And definitely, I've heard from a lot of people who are like, yeah, I watch this streamer and they just play this on occasion during their like let's chat kind of sessions. They watch, YouTube videos of people just vibing and playing it. It's got a great watchable quality. So and that was what got me onto it. Yeah.
The game was in beta or is it
early access? It's out. Oh, by the time this podcast is out, it's out. Yes. So it's out today though, or tomorrow actually.
Yeah, if you're watching this podcast,
it's on Game Pass for console, mobile, and cloud. No,
gotcha.
Console, PC, and cloud.
What clicked for me with the satisfaction of like what Ralph is talking about with cleaning things and like the completion was like getting a post level kind of like time lapse of your character
like
going around and cleaning it,
unpacking.
Yeah,
which is a mechanic that I never knew I loved so much until
really
I played
satisfying
it.
To see.
Unpacking.
I was like, oh shit,
I love it.
Once I saw that, I was like, oh okay, I gotta keep doing this.
But I wish it showed you the fucking super jump your character can magically do. I wish it showed that. I would like. There was a point where I got on top of the van, and I was like, I shouldn't be able to do that. I hope I, and I ended the level, and I was like, I really hope I can see just my character, $8 million man or whatever he is, just like super jump over the top of it, but I couldn't.
I like that you adjusted the $6 million man for inflation.
Yeah, but then
to pounds and then back to dollars.
I don't know. $6 million is like the cost of having a kid in America or something. I don't know. But
I really want the brands to get in on this. By the way, like I really want to be able to. Like Powerwash. I said in my review, like a KFC store, or like, like a Disneyland ride. You can go or like the new
Five Nights at Freddy's DLC.
That all that sort of shit. Do you know what I mean? Just bring it on. I reckon it'd be so sick. Like, yeah, I would like or other video games. Like you could, like a Powerwash a Pelican from Halo.
Yeah, like Square Enix does weird collabs. You could Powerwash a cup of noodles. Yeah.
or like Near Automata would be in there somehow. I don't know.
I don't know. That one sounds a bit risky. That's the NS not safe for work mods right there. So,
Ralph, you been playing anything else? You got Dofromantic on there?
Oh yeah, Dofromantic I mentioned before, and I just did my preview for 40k Darktide as well, which we covered briefly when we were in LA. I think I spoke about it in our first episode, but I finally managed to do the preview for that. And yeah, man, the more I looked at that in detail and really worked through that preview and sort of, I'm really thinking that's looking fantastic. I've also started reading 40k books. Like I read my first book.
Oh, jeez.
I know it's very dangerous. Everyone's warned me about it, but it's happening.
Slope.
Are you guys into this at all? Are you guys into 40k?
No. No,
I know.
you're not.
I'm not. I have a great respect for it because when I'm in the UK, I usually live with Dave Jewett, who's a producer, senior producer over at GameSpot, and he's big into it. He is he paints Warhammer, and he's so good at it. Like he's incredibly talented, and I just have a huge amount of respect for it because I tried painting Warhammer once and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But he's told me, he kind of mentioned stuff. He reads the books as well and like talks about the lore. And I'm just like, oh, that sounds like the kind of stuff I would be into.
Space Marines are cool. I think Space Marines
are inherently cool.
I think they're so cool. I like that they had a game and they're making another one. I'll play that shit.
Yeah. This first book I read is called like First and Only. It's very like how would I describe it? Like continental warfare, like Napoleonic Wars meets Dune, like Dune sci-fi. And it's just cool. And so I'm just keen for more of that. And also the person who's kind of the most prolific author in the 40K space is actually writing the lore for that game. And
cool.
Before I was like, oh, that's a neat bullet point, I'll mention that. But now having read this book and looking at how much this guy's contributed to that universe and seeing how well he writes, I'm like, hey, that's actually really cool that this guy is doing that. So, yeah, really very excited for that. That's like out in September time, so it's kind of soon-ish. And also Destiny 2, its season wrapped up. It's like, because Destiny 2 has seasons that run for 3 or 4 months. And but it kind of ends about after month 2 with like their major story beat stuff and whatever. And so that just wrapped up this last week. And I really think that was a fantastic season for reasons that I won't bore you with. And also the Destiny community does not agree. They think it was a really shit season. But I really liked it, and I'm really impressed with what it did in very small, subtle ways. It's got its problems, obviously, as Destiny always does.
As someone who knows nothing about Destiny, Ralph.
Yeah. Hit me.
What is it about this particular season that makes it stand out versus the rest?
Very briefly, question. I think that does it hold any appeal to anyone not already playing Destiny? Absolutely not. No. So if you're like, hey, is this the time to jump in? I'd be like, absolutely no, hell no. It's very much servicing those that are already in. But for those that are in, I think it gave a lot of very satisfying story beats for characters that you've known for a while and showed another side of them that I thought was really interesting, dealing with their personal shame and trauma. Destiny oscillates wildly between like picking up G.I. Joe action figures and smashing them together, pew pew, versus a more sort of like thoughtful approach to its narrative that can be very, quite emotional and thought-provoking, deep, just good, meaty, well-written narrative. Plus on the loot side, like they've just added a few things that provide you with a lot of incentive to chase loot. And like Destiny hasn't always got that right. Destiny has sometimes had some really cool shit that you might want, but not always. But this season, there's a few carefully placed items in a few places that really have sort of like made me very hungry to keep playing more Destiny. So again, plenty of problems with the season, but on balance, I think it was really strong and I really loved it, and keen to talk about it more in a dedicated video
I was just
so
gonna
that I don't have to bore non-Destiny people with talk about it.
Destiny is one of those games, and sorry, my cat was like yelling at me to get up, so here
Stop
she is.
talking about Destiny.
No, this is the it's post 9 p.m. We should be on the couch. I don't know why that's my cat's voice. But Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14 are those games where, similar to wrestling, I have the same thing where I'm like, I wish I had got in on the ground floor. I feel like it's too late now.
But it's not. It's actually not too late
though. It's
not too late. Too together. It's not too late.
No. It's actually not too. I would actually say it's definitely not too late for Final Fantasy 14, but I probably would agree with you. It's actually a little bit too late for Destiny, and I kind of go back and forth on this, but on balance, I don't recommend new players join Destiny except in major expansions and only with a lot of caveats, because the way that they've vaulted their content and the way they approach content these days, it's so hostile to new players, and there's no reform coming for likely years. I think it's going to be this way for at least another 2 years. So after that time, it might be a good time to jump into Destiny. Right now, though, it's doing a really great job of servicing those that are already playing it. So, yeah.
But wrestling, it's always a good time to get it.
Yeah.
You let me know, Lucy.
I know.
You let me know.
I know.
I'm ready to educate.
That's its own series. But let's go to Jake. What have you been playing?
So I played through Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course DLC.
How'd you like it?
I think it's a really good value. I think it's like worth a buy. I think it's $8, and you get a whole new island for Cuphead. You get 6 bosses, I believe. It's all focused around bosses. You get new power-ups that are actually pretty significant. Charms for your character that are pretty significant. Also just incredibly well-designed, beautiful bosses with better animations than ever. They've like upped the frame count, like drawing per frame animation for these bosses, so they're more insane, more over the top. I think some of them are my favorite. I'm also incredibly burnt out on hard games. Like I'm not like trying to ever flex. Like I'm just like I don't know. I like a challenge sometimes, but after a while, like enough is enough. And I think it was like Sifu and Elden Ring like really killed me, and I was like, all right, enough. So I went into this kind of like knowing I would bang my head against it because I wasn't in the mood, and it put me in the mood. Just because how could you not? Like it's something about Cuphead to me has always been so undeniable with the craft more than anything, where it just encourages you to work hard and be a real gamer and get through it to just see everything they made. And they've done a good job like making a lot of this stuff a little bit more accessible to folks, and it's nice. And you get to see so much here. Like they've changed up, like I said, the animation styles, but also they've done almost like Rankin and Bass style, like old school, like real stuff, like claymation, but not really. Like so, like it's just. I'm really excited to see what they do next. Like I think if you played Cuphead and you loved it, like it's seriously a no-brainer. It's like so cheap, and you get a little more Cuphead, and it's like really well made, and it's like they're firing on all cylinders. It's their best shit, and yeah.
They just announced they shipped 1 million copies.
Yeah.
Already of that, which is incredible.
Of the
Of
DLC.
that, which is nuts.
Yeah, that
so
is
good.
indeed
That's
delicious.
crazy.
Yeah.
Did you guys see this Edge magazine cover?
Yeah.
I saw it on your Insta.
How good is
Wow.
that?
It's
so
hot.
nice.
Pretty.
It is one of the best, and it actually folds out.
So if you're listening,
And it's
go to
like-
Ralph's Instagram, skill up on Instagram and see a picture.
That's
of
right.
it.
Yeah. But like, what
It's
an awesome
so
cover, and it's like
nice.
both sides, and I love it. It's so good.
sick.
Just-
And then
How's Miss Chalice play? Because I was watching Abby Russell and Ben Pack were playing, and Abby tried to play Miss Chalice, and she was like, ugh, she has a different dash. It's weird.
It's so the idea is that I don't know, but like you hear about the way her stuff works. So she has a couple more benefits. She has like a dodge roll. She has an automatic double jump, and she has one more hit of health, and she has one other thing I off the top of my head I'm forgetting, but it's kind of like the easier character. Like it should make things easier, you would think. But because some of her advantages and her movesets are like different enough, you have to like break your Cuphead brain, your Cuphead habit to learn how to succeed as her. So I kind of hit a wall for a while with her, but it's still she's different enough where it's cool. Also, she looks cool. She's very cutesy.
She does look cool. Honestly, like when we did audio logs a couple years ago, we had Jared Moldenhauer from MDHR come in to talk about King Dice. Honestly, one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. The amount of love and care that went into Cuphead, and now I'm assuming the DLC too, it's just incredible. And I'm so glad for that studio, because it's like a family affair. Now they've got like a
That's
Netflix
amazing.
show, and like
So
games
good.
reviewed really well, and also they've taken their time.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem like they've had to compromise on anything. It's really
I would love to see them be
fun.
pioneers of, like celebrating that type of stuff, because I am a fan of old cartoons and stuff. And like you don't really like we had what did we just get? The Rescue Rangers movie. And that felt like, oh, holy shit, this feels a little bit like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is like starting to become like a forgotten thing for some people. So it's like, I would love a video game studio to kind of like shepherd those old ideas, those Tiny Toons, those Looney Tunes, those old Cartoon Network stuff, like even like and further. Like that would be so great. Like they just care so much.
That's cool.
The other thing
do.
I've been playing though is Mad Max. I dove back into Mad Max.
the Avalanche.
Fucking
That one?
incredible. It's so good. It's
That's what everyone says.
It's-
Everyone's always like, it's so good. I've never played it. Everyone says it's awesome.
so it's just Mad Max applied to the open world formula. That's it. But there's something about it that just really, really works. So I played. So this released like the same week as
2015?
Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So I kind of like smoked
Ripperino.
through this game. I was like, this is very good, but like, okay, gotta go to that. Like, very important.
They shut down the online servers on it, right? So you can't complete it.
Did they?
Yeah, I heard that it was
Jake
one of those. It was
Jake's
one of
eyes
those
just went
games.
so
it was one of
wide.
those games where if you want to get the platinum, you have to do some online mechanics.
Oh
and
no!
the server went bye, which is
That's
a big
not
reason
good.
why I
Damn
avoided
you,
it.
Ubisoft.
I think I've never gotten a platinum a day in my life. Well, I've gotten a couple, but like not like tried.
Yeah, you got like telltale platinums. And, like, congrats on finishing.
I got like the
You did
Spider-Man
it.
one,
Here's a
right?
trophy.
Like, no, but Mad Max is really damn good because it's that typical open world formula where it's just a bunch of stuff to do and check off, but it's got good kind of Arkham style combat, but a little simpler, but also a little bit more like oomph behind it. It's all about punching, and you're punching and countering, but you can not, what's the opposite of pull your punches? Like you can hold the button to control how hard you want to pop a dude. So it's a lot of that. The combat is so much give and take, and it's just clearing out bases and stuff. But I think it's also the fact that you're hopping in a car and driving away, and then there's car combat out in the open world too. And they did a really, really good job with not only the car combat, but also how it progresses, how you get more abilities for it, and how it just becomes more and more satisfying and more challenging. It's really wild. And then it's just, they built like a really beautiful, sad, lonely world. It's not totally a rip of old Mad Max. It's not totally just Fury Road. It's kind of like all of it. And it's just been nice to play. Like I like progressing and getting a cooler jacket for Max, and then like trying to get the V8 for the car. Like there's a really good upgrade tree, like progression for all of it that just kind of works with my, my lizard brain, like one of you guys mentioned before, where it's just been my chill out, like I'm going to hop in my car and go drive. Sorry, that was terrible.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
Oh
but, like,
man, every time.
one day I'll get it.
Time.
But like just that Mad Max thing, and just like go and like punch a bunch of crazy men and steal some oil and drive my car. Like it's been nice, and I've been playing it specifically this time. So the first time I think I played on PC, and it was great, but I got it on sale on Xbox, and I looked up how it ran on Xbox Series X, and it runs 60 frames per second. So I just played it on that, and loving it. Highly recommend.
Cool.
It's definitely, I'm going to make a video eventually. Like it's one of those like underrated gems.
Mm-hmm. They got
Sure.
completely overshadowed by Kojima back in the day.
Kiefer
rough.
Sutherland, man, he blew it. Yeah.
God damn, man, it's tough.
Tough. Gerard, what about you?
Have you guys ever played Klonoa?
Yes.
No.
Played 2.
Okay. I've never played Klonoa before.
Oh,
First
honey.
time. First time playing it. My favorite genre of game is action platformer, 2D platformer, 3D platformer. I love platformers.
Mm-hmm.
My Twitter feed filled with people praising #Klonoa sweep. Klonoa sweep.
That's usually not to do with praise, by the way. That sweep suffix is usually more ironic than
that's
anything
what
else.
I thought.
Morbius.
But the Klonoa fan base was so passionate
Rabid.
about Klonoa that it is charting on specific platforms. Like people are enjoying Klonoa. So immediately I go, hey, you know what? All my friends on Twitter are saying Klonoa is great. I'm gonna play Klonoa. I picked up Klonoa and said to myself, you know what? Maybe I should do a video on it. I'm still debating if I should do a video on it, because after I've put in about, it's a short game. I've put in about 5.5 hours, and I'm bored. I'm bored, and I feel bad.
It's
And I
really
feel
simple.
like
It's
so
painfully
simple. I don't care about the characters. The music is something I just don't care about. Like I have no investment, and I feel bad because I feel like I'm letting the Klonoa fans down. I feel like everyone who played Klonoa has a pretty huge affinity for it and a nostalgia bone for it, and I just can't get into it. And I'm debating if I should finish it, if I should complete it, because I found out there's also, when you beat the games, both games, there is a hard mode where it's, if you get hit once, you start the level over, and you have to like complete the stage completely 100%, and that's my business, obviously. So I don't know.
Terrible.
I'm conflicted about it because I appreciate what it did and where and why people love it so much, but I don't know, Jake, maybe you can enlighten me, because I don't get it. There's hitbox issues, there's attacking enemy issues, the lore is nuts. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There's 12 stages. This is a short game. and I don't know what's happening. Jake, help me.
So I'm kind of with you. For some people listening, like I did play it. I talked about it on our first episode. Played it at Summer Game Fest. Thought it was like, oh, pretty cool. Like it's fresh and nice. It's crisp. It's like a nice remaster. Yay, Klonoa. But like once it started to sink in, and I hopped into it a little bit this week, where I played it in a demo setting. I didn't have a lot of the sound. Now I'm playing it like in my house with the sound, the feedback, everything. And yeah, it's just really, really simple. And I think some people, like Klonoa fans, like diehard fans, can really still play it for the vibes. I think especially the second one in that collection. But yeah, it's like it's painfully simple. And now it kind of makes me worried. It makes me look at my nostalgia goggles and be like, oh crap, like what else is like this? Like are you gonna tell me Tomba is tame? Like is not that great? Like, so I'm with you with it feeling.
When was the last time you played Tomba, Jake?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. No, not like this. No.
As someone who had zero nostalgia for Tomba, that was also one that it was fun. It was fun, but I definitely was blown away by what I played.
Yeah, it's just really, really simple, and I think once I started to play it a little bit this week, it kind of set in where I was like, this is a little too simple for me for what I'm looking for now as an adult gamer man.
Grown-ass man right here.
A grown-ass gamer.
I need Powerwash games, damn it.
With his Wolverine figurine in the background, absolutely. P.S. I love your Wolverine figure. I want to get one.
Thank you. It's the Mondo one. Shout out to him.
I think I'll just say this last thing about Klonoa, then we can move on. The hitboxes, I think, were my biggest problem. It's not very forgiving. Whether you're close to an enemy or not, it can bop you pretty easily. And Klonoa has like this grab maneuver. I don't know if it's a gun or a grappling thing.
It's a gun.
It feels very
Klonoa with a gun.
Klonoa, look, it'd be Shadow did it. Klonoa can do it. Klonoa has to be point blank in front of its subject to grab. And it just seems very the hitboxes and the essence of it just doesn't seem to click with me. It feels like it should be a little more snappier. It should be I shouldn't be so close to the enemy to grab them. It feels like it should be almost like a scorpion kind of maneuver of get over here. Yeah. Just a little bit. But I don't know. I'm gonna sit on this. It's not my final feelings. I'll let you guys know in a fortnight how I feel after I get to the end.
Yeah, I want to hear you play it on that hard mode. Yeah,
I have fonder memories of 2, but I feel like that's just rose-tinted glasses because I hear
2 is better than 1.
Yes.
So I'm almost at the end of 1, so I haven't got to play 2 yet.
You got that going for you at least. Okay, definitely report back. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been playing Powerwash Simulator. We've already talked about, but I'll tell you one game very quickly that I've been playing that is one that I meant to play years ago and never got around to it. Sequel's coming out in October. A Plague Tale Innocence, which I am loving.
Choice.
I'm chapter 12 of I think like 14, so I'm definitely near the end. I'm digging it so much. Like I was who was I talking to about it? I think Alana, and she was like, "How is it?" And I was like, "It is a game that knows exactly what it is." It's like I think the story is it's a game basically set in kind of medieval France, and there is the Inquisition. You play as Amicia, the daughter of kind of a lord, and you have to look after your little brother Hugo, who's sick, and there are rats, and there's a thing called the Bite, and there's the Inquisition, and they come and they basically rip everything apart in your home because they want to track down your little brother and you have to save him. And it's basically using clever mechanics like using light to scare away the rats, bits of alchemy in there as well. So it's like all these little touch points from things that I find interesting about the medieval times, not the themed restaurant, but the time period. And I really like it. Like the puzzles it gives you enough to work with. Yes, it is a stealth game, but like it gives you enough to work with that I don't feel like I know the exact answer to every encounter, especially later on when you get all these kind of alchemical things that you can pull together. Like you can put something together so you can either put a guard to sleep, or you can douse a fire, or you can send your brother or someone else you're traveling with to go do something over there, and you move around. And so it's like, it just comes together really well. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not playing it sooner, but I think it was free on PlayStation Plus, and I was like, okay, I had a weekend to myself, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit and play this, and I'm loving it.
Every mechanic like knows it's like it stays in its lane. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a gameplay demonstration of it right now, and I have to tell you that the top right most recommended video is a video by a guy named SkillUp, and it says A Plague Tale Innocence, the review. Please don't skip this. And right underneath it is A Plague Tale Innocence Before You Buy by
Wow.
So,
Look at us.
The algorithm masters right here.
Yeah. It just
the SEO works for us now.
Yeah.
Taste makers.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that I remember playing that obviously back at launch. I don't even know how I came to it. Like, I'm not sure. I think I saw a trailer or whatever. I was like, oh, that looks cool, you know. And it's from Focus Home Interactive. I think they published it. And
a Focus banger.
Like totally exactly what you said. It knows exactly what it wants to be. It doesn't overreach in any aspect. It has a really beautifully written sort of tender story. Like, they really nailed that sibling thing quite well, I thought. Some of the puzzles were so inventive. The visuals, though, I just really was punching so high above its weight above back then, you know.
Yeah.
You're going in libraries, and it's just so meticulously detailed, tapestries on the wall kind of stuff. And I was like, I just didn't expect that.
And then incredibly grim, like concept art stuff come to life, where you turn a right and you see a whole battlefield with millions of bodies and just broken bridges and fire, and it's just like, holy shit.
Because that was from Asobo Interactive, and before then these guys had mainly focused on making Disney licensed games like a Wall-E game and shit, right? And this thing, and no disrespect to the Wall-E game, by the way, but this thing just sort of came out of nowhere from these guys, and it's like, what the hell? How did you do this? Because it's a double A game, so to speak, but it really feels as polished and it looks as good as a triple A game. But it's this very linear, narrow, short form experience that most AAA studios just wouldn't touch these days. Like, they wouldn't make a game like this. So it feels quite special and unique in terms of what it is as a value proposition, because it is this beautifully polished, linear, single-player game that I just think we don't see much of these days. You know, they're usually more indie on the indie scale in terms of production values, or they just don't exist at all on the AAA end of the spectrum. So I loved what they did with it. I think it was really fantastic, and super pumped for the sequel as well.
Yeah, me too. And I'm super glad I picked it up.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for
choice.
Finally playing it, and now you're ready for the sequel.
Wait till you play the final boss, though. That's
I hear that sucks.
That's a wild one.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that next week. We should touch base on that, because I'd be very keen.
I'll do a follow up. I'm probably gonna finish it maybe tonight, actually.
Yeah, you're right at the end. So yeah.
What a good that was. It was that, and it was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, where it's like those are the type of games like that. I am this is gonna sound ridiculous, but this is why I'm here. These are those are the types of experiences I really, really keep coming back to, and I'm like, oh yeah, video games. This is what I love about them.
Yeah.
Not to get weird.
No, it's not weird. It's it's nice.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
It's a lovely
beautiful.
thought.
Yeah.
And we typically end every show by throwing over to Gerard to do a kind of on this day in gaming, but you're changing the format.
Yeah. So you all spoke out. The comments have been positive, by the way. Thank you guys. You all said that you'd like to hear what happened in the week of gaming, not just the day in gaming. So I curated this list. There's going to be there are more games that came out on these days, but these are the highlights, the ones that we all know and appreciate and understand. So I'm going to try and go through the week of gaming many years ago, July 10th through July 16th. You guys ready?
Ready.
Hit me.
Always.
July 10th, we had Yumi Kojuo Doki Doki Panic 35 years ago, 1987, La Famicom, for you Mario 2 fans out there. Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, came out 28 years ago on Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Double Dragon 5 was 28 years ago.
That's
That is
insane.
that is bleak because I remember
1994.
playing Double Dragon 1. So,
Armored Core, the original Armored Core in Japan, came out 28 years ago on the PlayStation 1.
Wow.
Persona 4 in Japan came out 14 years ago, 2008 on the PS2.
Oh my god.
And Warhammer Vermintide 2, 4 years ago on the Xbox One, 2018.
Yeah, sure.
Moving on to July 11th, we had Street Fighter 2 Turbo in Japan 29 years ago on the Super Nintendo, 1993.
That's cool. That's very cool.
The original Saga Frontier in Japan 25 years ago, 1997, PlayStation
Wow.
1.
Man, that's
I still
already
can't
CD
get
case for
over
that.
when you say 1997 was 25
25 years ago.
Isn't
That's
it depressing?
fucked. That's
the whole
properly
point of
fucked.
this segment is to make all of you feel nostalgic and bad at the same time.
Yep.
I always say this wrong because I've never played the game series, but everyone says it. Is it Suikoden?
Suikoden?
Suikoden.
Suikoden? Suikoden 3 came out 20 years ago
Oh,
on PS2.
man.
2002. Kirby Air Ride in Japan 19 years ago, 2003. Dragon Quest 9 Sentinels of the Starry Skies came out 13 years ago in Japan on the Nintendo DS in 2009. And then more recently, we had the Final Fantasy 12's The Zodiac Age came out 5 years ago on PS4.
That is
Oh, yeah.
sick. I love that game
That was
so
a good
much.
great
re-release.
July 12th, we had Ape Escape 3 in 2005, 17 years ago in the PS2. And then we had Mario and Luigi Dream Team came out 9 years ago in 2013 on the Nintendo 3DS. That's basically it for July 12th.
Wow.
This one's for you, Jake. July 13th, the original Metal Gear came out 35 years
Let's
ago.
go with the Kyle Reese
believe
Terminator art ripoff.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful cover art. I have like 4 copies of that just to look at them.
Super
35
R-Type
years,
in
man.
Japan came out 31 years ago on the Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Again this week, Persona 3 in Japan came
Oh.
out 16 years ago on the PS2. And more recently, we had Captain Toad for the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch came out 4 years ago in 2018. Moving on to July 14th, Bad News in Japan 33 years ago. That was Bad Dudes. I'm so sorry.
I was like, bad news.
I was like, what's bad?
Bad
What
news.
happened in Japan?
Bad news in Japan.
Is Kojima up to his old tricks again? What's he
Bad
done
news.
now? Yeah.
My brain just stopped working for a second. Gerard.exe is rebooting. Please wait. Next up, one of my favorite games of all time, Super Mario All-Stars. 29 years ago in Japan,
All right.
Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah. F-Zero X for the N64 came out.
F-Zero X.
Yeah.
It's from Update Day.
That was really nice, Lucy.
Thank
We need
you.
more of that. That's great. That's
I've
fantastic.
practiced the Update Day song so many times.
It is Wednesday as we're filming, so it's appropriate.
Exactly.
That came out 24 years ago on the N64. Star Fox 64 3DS 3D came out 11 years ago on the Nintendo 3DS.
That was another good
Japan.
good version.
Yeah. God of War 3 remastered 7 years ago on the PlayStation 4. And 2 years ago, we had Death Stranding on the PC.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
On PC, yeah.
On PC, yeah. July
Probably that was 2 years
15th,
ago.
Donkey Kong Japan edition, 39 years ago on the NES. As long as Donkey Kong Jr. 39 years ago, because that same day, the NES, the Famicom came out 39 years ago. So those were launch
Wow.
titles for the NES.
God bless.
So
Famicom.
crazy. Jesus Christ.
Legend of Mana Japan came out in 23 years ago on the PS1. And then 13 years ago, we had Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition for Xbox 360 and PC. And
Did
rounding
that
out
come
our...
to phones eventually?
What's that?
Is that the version that came out on phones? Because I
I
had a
am-
Monkey Island on my iPhone and then it got
I imagine
speaking
so.
Speaking of stuff that got delisted,
Right.
Yes.
that and fucking Peggle.
You'll
Sorry,
always
that's
have
my- that-
you'll always have Wiggle Biggle 3. Don't
Yes.
worry, it's fine.
That is-
Peggle 3 waiting in the wings for you, Lucy. Our last day, we had one of my favorite games of all time, a very underrated gem, Brave Fencer Musashi, for the PlayStation 1 came out 29 years ago.
Never even heard of
I've
this.
never heard of it.
Oh my goodness. If
Never
that's
heard of it.
once, I hope that's a game that gets brought to PlayStation Premium, because if that's happening, that's a day one download for me. The game's incredible.
It's a Gerard-ass game.
Yeah. It's like, what?
It's
Is that a
so
type?
good. It's like hybrid hack and slash, hybrid action platformer. All of the puns are about food. Like everything's about food, but it's not Has nothing to do with food. It's got voice acting on the PS1. It's actually really fun. Anyways.
Damn.
Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD came out a year ago.
Oh my god.
That was a $60
$60 game.
Nice. Okay.
And in case you're wondering, yes, it still is $60 a year later.
Of course it is.
Still
Nintendo.
Well, it's
$60.
Of course it is
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's been it.
Super Mario
Those are all the
Wonder.
games that came out.
Yeah,
that was a good
in
one.
the last several
That was a
decades.
fun
That was a
one.
trip.
I like that.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Gerard. And thank you everyone at home for watching, listening. Ralph, we have a contact email for questions and stuff.
Oh,
We wanna
yes,
start
it would be
getting your
cool
questions
if-
in.
Totally. It would be cool if we started answering some of y'all questions. Y'all. I'm trying that out.
What's
is it working?
this?
Is it sticking? Is it not? Should I keep it?
guys,
No.
use
Nah,
guys.
go
No,
for it.
no.
I believe in it. Go for it,
Thank
Ralph.
you, y'all.
Keep
We
it.
want y'all's questions.
Yeah,
And
y'all.
and in
Well,
Australia,
all
though,
y'all's questions.
in Australia, the plural of you is use.
Oh,
And
that's British as well.
It's
Use.
excellent.
very
That's good.
bad. Usually,
Yeah,
whenever
it's
someone says
terrible.
use, I'm like, ooh, that. No, I can't. No, I'm out. That's not good. Y'all seems much more charming. Anyway, email. Yes, it is contact@friendspersecond.com. I'll leave it below in the description as well. Fire off some questions. Doesn't necessarily need to be gaming related. If it's just whatever, it's fine. If it's safe to put in the video and will not result in us being demonetized, then it's fine.
Interesting
okay?
topics. Yeah, if you want to start with
yeah.
topics, yeah, go for it.
Whatever, man. We're just happy to shoot the shit, and so please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Ralph, what is your sad story? Don't think that I forgot.
I actually totally forgot. Actually, don't put me on the spot now. This is going to be a thing I'll have to circle back to. Okay, I totally forgot. I just
All right, next podcast we're opening
we have
with
to
that
open
sad
with
story.
a sad story.
Yeah,
That's right.
Don't worry, I'll have
Okay.
another one.
That's right.
Well, in that case, thank you everyone for watching, listening. You can find us all over the internet, links and stuff below in the description. Jake, you invented the sign off. I want to pass to you to sign us off because I love it so much.
Tie your shoes and go to bed. See you guys next time.